It feels like another lifetime. Back when flying around the world was so much easier. We took an incredible journey across Africa. Dawn over the Masai Mara. Beneath us, roaming free, the big beasts of Kenya. On this journey, we'll get close to the animals of this vast continent. That big guy.
Oof. He's telling us that he's there.
He's looking right at us.
From the fiercest to the fastest, to the tallest on land, and the deadliest beneath the water. And where better to begin than with a hunter as old as the dinosaurs, the ancient crocodile.
You don't feel nervous this close to them?
They're shy, they'll go away.
Sami Muneye has lived in this part of Africa all his life. He respects the rhythms of the place.
Because this one seems to be looking.
Well, he's already eaten.
He's already eaten.
He's already eaten.
Okay.
We can learn from Africa, he says, how to look after ourselves and our planet.
But we are so greedy. Animals are, most of them are opportunists. We are so greedy.
We fly south on a journey that will take us right across the continent. First to what's been called Africa's last Eden. If the natural world is worth saving, this place is the reason why. The Okavango Delta, an inland river basin so vast it's visible from space. A watery paradise in the midst of Botswana's Kalahari Desert, best experienced in a traditional dugout called a makoro.
Welcome to the wilderness. This is Africa's last remaining wetland wilderness.
Steve Boys has explored these waterways for 1,500 miles.
It is a treasure, but it's a very delicate one.
Simple water is the source and sustenance of life, of so much life.
Yes,
A Garden of Eden.
this is a Garden of Eden, yeah.
In these waters, one of Steve's favourite animals, and one of the most dangerous in the world. Aggressive, territorial, and inevitably threatened by us humans.
We're going around a hippo pool. What are you going to do when the hippo comes at the makoro?
A panic.
If I start making funny grunting sounds, you can join me. It'll try and stop him.
Any other advice?
Don't let your mind wander. Be in the wilderness, be wild, and you'll be safe.
Okay. Be at one with nature. I can hear them. Oof.
He's telling us that he's there.
Steve's been near fatally attacked, his canoe thrown over, his love for hippos undimmed.
Hippos do kill many, many people every year, typically on dugout canoes like this.
Okay. They've disappeared.
Yep, because we're stressing them out.
These 3-ton animals don't swim, they walk along the bottom, essential for keeping the waterways open. Guardians of the river, Steve calls them.
They can spend 5 to 9 minutes under there.
Wow.
They can sleep underwater.
It is incredible to be so close to them.
As the sun sets, one more breathtaking encounter. An animal we'll soon see more of.
Big male lion. He's looking right at us.
Now let's be careful, calm.
He'd turn on us here.
George, if we go 10 meters further, we're inside this space. That is incredible. That is the best lion sight I've seen in my life. First time on Makoro. It's incredible.
It'll only be a few hours before my pulse rate returns to normal.
Okay.
And we're really close there.
If water is the lifeblood of Botswana, we're on the way to meet a couple who are its beating heart. Husband and wife conservationist Derek and Beverly Joubert, introducing us to the kings and queens of the savannah, up close. The world-famous filmmakers have been hunting big cats for decades, armed only with cameras. Tracking lions takes time.
There's a cub track here. It's fresh. This is a couple of hours old.
But after hours searching,
there's a lioness.
We find a pride.
So there's a grandmother, a mother, and a cub. We've known these lions now for 7 years, I would say.
Yeah.
And we can track this family back about 20 years.
They are your family.
Well, we'd be honored to be part of their family, at least.
But the Jouberts are under no illusions. These are dangerous, wild animals.
You'll notice that while we're talking, I got my back to the lion. I'm still looking over my shoulders. If I fell out of the vehicle now, they'd be on me. And so having that healthy respect for their wildness is something that we really enjoy.
Climbing to the top of a hill, we watched an incredible moment. A lioness cajoling her nervous cub to take the plunge.
I was terrified of water, anxious about the hippos and the crocs in there.
These lions have had to adapt to going through water, whereas most lions in Botswana don't go through water at all. It's only in the Okavango.
When Derek and Beverly first arrived in the Selinda Reserve, hunting had reduced the population to 2 female lions. Some 30 years later, the lions number over 100 and counting.
Now Derek and Beverly must battle to preserve their life's work. They say they get their strength from their love for each other and their incredible motivation from their love for these lions.
But Africa's conservationists always face an uphill struggle. Climate change, hunting, and put simply, humans, all threaten this fragile world. Across the Okavango Delta, another fearless conservationist. Brave is not the word Brad Bestelink would use about himself, but how else to describe a man who lives in the wild, amongst some of the most dangerous animals on Earth, for months at a time.
This is your home. We're in your living room.
I mean, it's not a bad place, is it? Yeah, you can go back to London if you want. I'm staying here.
Who likes to get close to its inhabitants.
That big guy.
Maybe too close. The power of these animals makes me feel unexpectedly like an endangered species. Close encounters are what Brad lives for. He's been following this pack of wild dogs for years.
And as soon as they get on the move and start hunting, they'll be very difficult to keep up with.
And soon, the drama of the plains is all around us.
What just happened?
Hyena's been trailing. Obviously, we can pick up food from these dogs, and they're just getting fed up, so just attack it.
As the sun goes down and we prepare to camp outside, we make sure we are into the wind.
So that any sound travels on the wind.
So even when you're sleeping, you're planning your next day, you're listening.
90% of the work at night, that we do with lions is driven by what we hear at night.
It's really good, actually. Fed and watered, time for some advice.
What do I need to know?
Torch, mainly.
Right.
Yeah, just blind them. They don't really want to eat us. Yeah. They used
That's good to know. Snakes, spiders.
That's why I sleep on top.
You sleep up there, and I sleep down here.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sure enough, as the stars rise in the southern sky, predators are on the prowl.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove, because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Tell me what animals were there last night?
Big male lion doing a territorial march up and down past us. Hyena a couple of times last night. There must be a leopard harassing baboons. They're really performing that side.
So another day begins over the Delta.
You know, you live in a city. Do you wake up full of optimism every morning? I wake up with optimism every day.
Optimism in the face of adversity seems like a common theme in this part of the world. We're about to meet another iconic predator, the cheetah, and the people who are trying to help the world's fastest animal outrun its own extinction. We've traveled north to the Horn of Africa, Somaliland, surrounded by war, stricken with poverty.
Do you want to come and join us?
To meet Maury and her cheetah orphans. This pair just over a month old.
For a while we were calling them hairy and hairless. This is hairless because it had less hair.
Right.
But cubs at this age should be fluffy and long manes down their back.
They call cheetahs the cats that cry because of their unique facial markings. The condition of these two suggests terrible trauma.
And they were starved. We're very fortunate that they've done so well.
Cheetahs are more prone to stress than other big cats. Yet here they are trafficked to the Middle East by gangs and sold for thousands of dollars as pets. Maury says only 20% survive.
It's important to say these are not pets.
No, these are wild animals that have come from the wild. They've either been stolen from their mother, their dens, or the mothers have been killed.
The lucky ones end up in Laurie's arms. Cheetah Mom, you might call her. She began helping animals in 1970s California. Laurie's been trying to save cheetahs ever since. She set up her Cheetah Conservation Fund in Namibia, Southern Africa. Her success at restoring the population there would be enough for most people.
You are such a good girl.
But 2 years ago, in Somaliland, she met Light as a Feather, a young cheetah who was rescued from wildlife traffickers and was inspired to set up this second sanctuary. Moose Saeed, the vet who found Vicky, says she's only half the size she should be because she was so starved.
When you found her, what was she like?
She was like poor and very dehydrated.
Dehydrated?
Yeah, I was very sad and cry.
Can you believe she survived?
No, I can't. No, I can't.
So I can come in with you?
Yes, you can. I have a new toy, you guys.
They're purring. They're purring.
They are purring. And this is what cheetahs want to do more than anything in the world. Is run and play.
Today, Laurie has 35 cheetahs in Somaliland.
They came in starved to death. Out of the group of 12, most of them were dead when they started, and
These are the survivors.
these are the survivors.
But Laurie says the truth is, this is all just a band-aid.
But obviously, we'd rather have them living in the wild.
Right.
They help them exercise and build their strength.
You want to try?
Yeah. Okay, guys. When you see them run, they really start to look like the cheetahs that we know and love.
Yes, yes. That's what they're built to do, is to run.
There are only 7,500 cheetahs left in the world. Laurie's dream is one day we'll no longer need her sanctuaries. But she says, to make that change, we have to change.
I hope that the young people take over. I hope the world takes over.
The fight against climate change, the fight against poverty, the battle for some kind of peace. We're in this together.
We're all in this together.
With the cheetahs.
The cheetahs are leading the way. You know, save the cheetah, change the world. And maybe we can.
You could be forgiven for thinking these past few years that our planet is trying to tell us something. Africa is a world like no other. Its future, our future, may depend on leaving a lighter footprint. But if I never get to make a trip like this again, I'll never forget it.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the hammer delivery.
All right, it just made too.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove, because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Is back!
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app. Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
These are places we may not be able to visit for a while. Come with us as we take you there, into our incredible world. Woo! Before you see it, you hear it. Iguazu. In native language, the name means big water. A waterfall twice as tall as Niagara and miles wide. We take a boat across the rapids to one of the wonders of nature.
This is the largest waterfall system in the world, so huge it cuts across 2 nations. Over there is Brazil, this side, Argentina. Disgorging the contents of 5 Olympic swimming pools every second. The center of the falls, called Devil's Throat. You can feel the sheer power of the falls. Our little boat is getting buffeted around and there is a constant mist in my face.
But we're still not wet enough for these guys. Not even close. To truly feel the full force of these falls, you have to get soaked. Water, our precious source of life. In Brazil, it is everywhere. And the most famous waterway of all is, of course, the Amazon.
What you're seeing is not an illusion. This is where two massive rivers come together. One black, one brown. They form the mighty Amazon.
The Amazon River spans the entire country, flowing more than 4,000 miles, 450 miles further than the Mississippi. The rainforest with which the river shares its name is a haven for 40,000 kinds of plants and a staggering 10% of the world's wildlife, 1,300 different birds. And among the many animals here, 3,000 species of fish. Today, we're on a fishing expedition like no other, to catch piranha. Sandro Gama descended on his mother's side from an Amazonian tribe. He now runs tours of the ancient river.
It's like magic for me.
It's a magical place.
Magical place.
Sandro guides our boat away from the main part of the river into one of the smaller tributaries. The channel is shaded by trees and the water here shallower. The best place to find piranha. Piranha will eat almost any meat, even, rarely, humans. To attract these underwater killers, Sandro mimics a distressed animal in the water.
They like noise.
They like noise like this.
It's less like fishing, more like hunting.
Would it help if I cut my finger and put it in the water?
I caught one.
You got one. Then Sandro hooks one.
Wow.
Those are some sharp teeth.
She's saying, come any closer, I'm going to bite your face off.
Yeah.
Day one over, and we've caught one fish. But a hunter always eats what he catches.
She wanted to eat me,
Oh, yeah.
and this is my revenge.
It's your revenge, right?
It tastes like cod, like kind of...
Oh, yeah, like freshwater fish.
It tastes like a freshwater fish, actually. There isn't very much meat here. It's very bony.
It's day two, and we try another fishing spot. This time, I have more luck.
Oh, yeah.
I think I got one, I think I got one. Yes!
Yes, my
All
brother.
right! I didn't think I was going to be able to do that.
It looks like I wasn't the only one to target this fish. Piranhas even prey on each other.
Wow.
I took a chunk of her tail. You see? This area here. Hold it by here.
Yeah.
And
Woohoo! Okay, I think you should do this. Because I don't want to cause her any more pain, honestly. And also, I don't want to cause myself any pain.
Right.
Our fishing expedition, somewhat successful, Sandro has a final surprise. He assures me, and I took some reassuring, there are no piranhas here. But beneath the water, we are soon surrounded by the Amazon's famous pink dolphin.
Whoa, he's touching. They're rubbing against our legs here. It's incredible. It's like rubber.
The people here believe these dolphins are princes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Dolphins are very mythological animals from the Amazon. According to the indigenous legend, after midnight he becomes a handsome boy, and suddenly he chases the girls. And when she's pregnant, she will blame on the dolphins. She will blame on the dolphins.
They are no threat to us, of course, but it turns out the fish they eat include piranhas. In the Amazon, every animal depends on another. The power and the beauty of this river and its inhabitants, both stunning and humbling. Next, somewhere beneath this vast canopy of green, deep in the heart of the rainforest, these colossal giants, and what it's like to climb one.
I am now officially really quite frightened.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today. Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove, because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready? Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late breaking news.
All right,
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
The Amazon, a vast 2 million square miles of awesome, largely untamed nature. An estimated 390 million trees. Today, I'm climbing just one, but it's a monster.
How tall is the tree we're going to climb?
It's 180 feet.
My guide, Leo Princey, knows the rainforest well.
Not too much.
It's traditions like this method of preventing insect bites.
I can smell it, yeah.
Covering yourself with dead ants.
they bite you. They do. They bite you while you're trying to stop other insects from biting you.
And the jungle's predators.
That's where a jaguars climbed the tree.
Yeah, 1 year ago around. Don't think that if you want to run from a jaguar, if you climb a tree, you are safe.
Not exactly reassuring.
I don't think I've climbed a tree since I was a boy. And definitely not like this. And don't look down, right?
You can look if you want. Halfway.
Yeah. This is halfway?
Yeah.
As I sweat, Leo's 9-year-old daughter, Kenna, passes me. Fearless. Not exactly how I feel.
Talking to me like this is a good way to stop me from thinking about the fact that I'm hanging by a rope about 100 feet in the air.
I'm increasingly nervous.
I am now officially really quite frightened.
Finally, reaching the top.
Okay, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. I can't actually believe that I have got up here. Honestly, my legs are shaking, even though I've got this rope attached to me. But the view is just stunning.
The air above the Amazon, thick with the sounds and smells of life.
Look around, just look around.
The experience of a lifetime. Exhilarating and a little exhausting.
I think I've earned a rest.
Leo can't easily relax. He's increasingly worried for his forest. His home is here in the jungle with his wife Vanessa. Their children were born on this deck. All three are homeschooled. They playfully call their dad the guru. What he knows is that this place is increasingly threatened. Fires have raged across the forest. Logging is destroying yet more. The wonderful wildlife here threatened from all angles. But maybe one day we will learn to coexist and share our planet with nature.
Sean, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Great to do it with you. Thanks.
First Flag Day, extraordinary film. You direct it, you star in it, and you direct your own children, including your daughter Dylan, who stars across from you. When the idea came across your desk, direct this film based on a true story, but also direct your daughter, what was your first reaction?
Well, it was an inverse of that, really, because what happened was that I had been sent the script with the offer to act, direct, or both. And I got to about page 30, and that's when my daughter's face got imprinted on that character in a way that occasionally had happened with other actors, but not to the point where it could now only be that face for me. And she was quite young at the time, and when I first approached her with it, and reluctant, and wanted more time to live her life, more time to spend on sets. And so it took 10 years before we ended up, and that the opportunity was still there, was great. But originally I was just going to direct her in it with another actor. And it was really out of a kind of very surprising situation where we had an actor fall out for his own personal reasons about a month before shooting, that I had to jump in or let the movie fall apart.
So Dylan was not obviously an experienced actor at that point. What was it that told you she can do this and she should do this?
Yeah. There was something I was so confident in, blindly confident in, about just observing her over the years growing up, the way she would tell the story and inhabit characters that she would tell the stories about. And I was always just so sure, but it wasn't until the first day of shooting, the first scene we shot together, when she just nailed a long scene, where I realized I had no right to that confidence, and I have all the relief in the world that I was right, because what if I hadn't been, for her sake? And I remember immediately being thrilled, admiring, moved, but mostly relieved. And I looked off camera to one of my trusted crew members, and they had just seen what she did. And, you know, what the, was like, where does that come from in that young woman? And so, you know, we were off to the races at that point.
How do you walk that line of being her real life dad, acting her? Are you encouraging her like a dad during the shooting, or does she need to find her own process? Or how do you balance those two things?
Well, what was also interesting is that part of Dylan's reluctance to do the movie was because she never saw herself in front of the camera growing up, though her parents both did it. She did see herself behind the camera. And what was fantastic about the partnership that became of it with my daughter was that she has great directorial perspective. You know, even in the way that one would color a scene, the different colors between the characters and so on. She had and I think we immediately found we had a shorthand in that. So there were so many times where I might have to explain why I was putting the camera in a certain place with a certain lens at a certain time to certain actors. She already has a kind of grounded concept of that, and with a similar bent to my own.
So what happened, Sean, in that decade from the time she was, 20 years old until now, that convinced her, do you think, that she was ready for this? Because I was saying to you before, what maturity for a young woman that age to say, no, I don't want to be in a movie with you. I think a lot of people would jump at that opportunity. But for her to know that she wasn't ready, when did she make that leap?
I think that when I brought it back to her at the age of, I guess she was about 27 at the time, right before we made it, I think that, one, she was bringing more life of her own to the interpretation while reading the script again, and recognizing what a great opportunity it was, and a challenge that she wanted. And then to hear her tell it, she got great encouragement to do it from her mother, and in particular, one of our producers, John Killick. And I think that both of those were really important. And then she had a second moment of great reluctance, which is when the other actor fell out, and I took over because she felt it was, this is a big enough risk to work with my dad. Let him pick one job. But we didn't have a choice, and it ended up working, in our view, both Dylan and I think, feel very lucky that it ended up happening that way.
Yeah, you guys are phenomenal together. I mean, I was saying to you before that there was this real life dad energy that comes through all the time with a guy who's trying to do his best, but he can't stay on the right track, and she's trying to pull him back in, and he's lying to her, and there's deceit and all these things that we all experience in our life. So I think we should take a step back and just explain who John Vogel is. Real life person. Jennifer is his daughter, played by Dylan. Who is this guy, and how did you see him as an actor? What appealed to you?
Yeah, so John Vogel, who at the time of his death was the second largest counterfeiter in U.S. history. He had robbed banks. He had been an insurance arsonist. He was also revered Chopin. He was also a very talented sketch artist. He took that talent later into his counterfeiting activities. He was, by all accounts, and particularly Jennifer's account, in many ways a larger-than-life, big personality, very charming, so on. I met this character initially not through Jennifer Vogel's book, but through Jez Butterworth's interpretation of it, his adaptation of the book as a screenplay. And as I said about Dylan's face being imprinted, I got an impression of who this character was initially from the fiction. And with Jennifer's permission, as I went back and read her beautifully written book, with all the complexities of character borne out as well as anybody can speculate on the mind of another, as she did with her fathers and so on. There were a lot of clues. And I'm sure I carried some of those into it, but I feel that because Jennifer was willing, both for me as a director and as an actor, to encourage a lot of poetic license, that I didn't approach it specifically to achieve the real John Vogel, because I was really going to be making this, not mine as Sean Penn, but mine as the director, of a slight expression of what that kind of relationship is, what the theme of deception and truth, and which has only become more poignant, in this era. And so I think it was a very intuitive kind of process. I think it was for Dylan, and I know it was for myself.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. By the hand,
All right, it just me too.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right, it just me too.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Directing and acting at the same time, something you've never done before. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you've ever done it. You've directed, of course, and done all your movies, but you've never done both at the same time.
Right.
How do you begin to manage that?
Yeah. So there are people who are wired for that. I've got great friends, Bradley Cooper, Ben Stiller, people who have done this, Robert De Niro, who have done it brilliantly. For me, I have noticed in my life that I am overdrawn to multitask. It is not my nature to do it, but I often feel that I have to, and it puts an incredible stress on me. So all the other aspects of my life that I do that with, I've tried to preserve film where this sort of mono mind doesn't have to be in stereo. So I never would have, just voluntarily chosen to do it. I always loved directing films and just working with actors other than myself. Directing is a 17 and a half hour a day job anyway. The idea of going home to learn lines, each night with everything else going on was too much. But then I found out something that I had not given enough attention to, which was that so much of the stress of directing that can be, or the energy demand of directing, is negotiating two egos in a scene. And as soon as I come in knowing what the frame of the house is, which is all I need to do to make Jennifer's story work, then I can save all of the time on the set by coming in, doing my bit, okay, and I know the frame is there, good enough.
Do you feel like sometimes one takes away from the other? Was it harder to, I guess the question is, would you do it again?
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I suppose if I found something that I identified as strongly with my son as this that I do with my daughter, I would. Well, my instinct would be the same as it was on this, which would be I would certainly direct my kids again. I would love to do that. Dylan's side of that story is that the next time we're on a set together, she's directing. But to act and direct I think. I just turned 61, and everybody's got their own chronology for that in terms of their fatigue. I'm not going to be directing and acting again, I don't think.
So you went through a lot as a young actor. Have you talked to her about that side of it, that you're going to be in magazines, people want to take your picture, and there are pieces of this that, hey, I learned a few things along the way, and here's what I can tell you about it?
She's very self-aware. She knows everything that I know. I mean, it's a funny thing, because I remember when she was 3, she was in the child seat in the back of my car. And we were having a conversation where she said something that was just so astute. And I thought I was complimenting her. And I said, and I'm looking at her in the rearview mirror. And I say, Dylan, I can't teach you anything. And she, why not? And I thought, oh no, I've just made the trauma. But it has also always been true that she kind of got born with a sort of wisdom of soul. And I think that she'll handle this well. And I'll be there for her in any way. Her mother will be there for her in any way that we can. But she's got good friends and she's strong. So I'm pretty confident she's going to have a good run.
And not totally unlike your own experience growing up in a family of actors, right? Where you had some sense of what it meant to be an actor, what that life was going to be like. Were your parents initially as encouraging of you as you are of your children? I know there was one scene at the Repertory Theater where you came off stage very excited. Yeah. And what did your mother say to you?
So yeah, they had been very encouraging. Being an actor was a proud thing to be in our family growing up. And I went off to become an actor, and I invited my parents to my first play, and she came backstage. They came backstage afterwards, and she said, "You were terrible. You have to go to university and have something to fall back on." She's liked other performances better than that one since that time.
I hope so. It got better from there.
Yeah.
When did your mom finally give you a rave? What was the first performance? She said, you're pretty good at this.
She's been extremely encouraging with the exception of that particular moment. And I remember when she said, "You got to have something to fall back on," in a very cocky way. I borrowed a line from the Buddy Holly story where he's told, you got to have something to fall back on. And he said, "I'm not going to fall back." So I was determined not to fall back.
You had that swagger from an early age.
Yeah.
What about Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Was she into that one?
Oh yeah, she laughed a lot about that. Yeah, she has trouble when she feels that I'm doing things for a character that make me less appealing. That's when my mother, because she's a mother,
right?
So why do you always want to play the ugliest side of yourself and things like that?
Well, Spicoli didn't have that side, luckily.
No, that was a different kind of thing.
Yeah, that was something else altogether. Well, there's been a lot of that then in your career because of the kind of characters you play. So in Flag Day, obviously very flawed man, and you look at your roles over the years, there's always something in those guys that there's some internal conflict. We're rooting for him on some level, but we see the flaws. Are those the kind of characters you look for as you look over the course of your career?
I mean, one could say, as it turns out, yes. While I've had an incredible amount of freedom, relatively speaking, to choose things to do, even to develop things, as an actor with a director early on, I haven't, without been offered every kind of part. For example, I haven't been offered a lot of comedies,
right,
and so on. So when I am developing or choosing things of my own, I tend to go into what is it that's interesting to me in human nature right now. Like what am I asking myself questions about now? Mm. And that can be difficult when you're just waiting on scripts to come from somebody else, to time that to the moment that's what's. And I think that's part of what pushed me into directing, is because I really wanted to pick the subject that interested me at the time I'd be making it.
It's hard to even see you in a big comedy. Would you wish somebody would ask you to be in one?
I would love to be. I mean, I love going to see a good comedy. So if somebody thought I could, be productive in it, I would be interested. I mean, I've been offered things, but not a lot, and not a lot I would want to do.
We need to make that happen. It'd be a nice unexpected turn, I think, if you take that move in your career. So you've kind of indicated in the last couple.
It's the hard one, by the way.
The comedy is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these. I remember, like when Eddie Murphy did Professor
Nutty Professor.
The Nutty Professor. Yeah. That wasn't, for example, an Academy Award-winning performance. I just think is ludicrous. What some of these actors, Jim Carrey. I mean, there's several of them that do things that are just magic tricks, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, they always say it's harder to make people laugh than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
There's no lying about whether or not it's funny.
You're either laughing or you're not.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your newsfeed to life. Streaming live every night, it's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, I know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the Penn deliberations.
All right, it just me too.
Your organization, CORE, which you co-founded after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, sadly has become essential during COVID. You guys doing testing, you guys doing vaccinations, and now again another earthquake just a few days ago in Haiti. I know you said you'll be heading down there soon.
Next week, yeah.
What does it look like from what you're hearing on the ground?
It's grim. It's really grim. This thing that we as foreign workers in Haiti have always talked about, which is the resilience of the Haitians. I'm wondering now to what degree we give ourselves too much comfort with that. It's so relentless what the Haitian people have gone through for so much of their history. And this particular one kind of happening in the aftermath of the assassination, the brutal assassination of the president, and happening in an area that just to get resources to it from the capital, from Port-au-Prince, is very difficult. The gangs own the territory between the affected area and Port-au-Prince. So most stuff, both human resources and supply, are coming in by rotary or fixed wing, and the roads are washed out from this current storm. There's something biblical about it. And my job, psychologically and practically, is to do what the Haitians are doing, which is put one foot in front of the other. And then when I say I really mean our organization's job. And that's what they're doing. They got in on day one with heavy equipment to aid in the search and rescue and the rubble removal and medical personnel. But I'm getting the daily reports, and it's a real struggle. The death toll is still rising, and so many of the churches were wiped out in the area. Where, while I am not a religious person myself, what I'm in traveling, working in places like Haiti, the essential aspect of faith is so important, and to have those houses of worship collapse for them, I think is going to be, it should make things that much tougher.
What do you say when you get down there? What can you say to people who've been through so much, as you say, so relentlessly, whether it's natural disasters or political crisis or the assassination of their president not long ago? What do you say when you get there?
Say, I'm with you. How can I help? And you look for ways to be proactive. That's all you can do.
Is it frustrating in some ways? Does it feel futile sometimes to go to a place that it's so hard to recover and you'll be back?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. This last few weeks, since the assassination, and with this earthquake, it feels futile, but that's not an operating principle, for any of us. Mm-hmm. And when I joke about the sky falling, I feel like this guy, poor little me, feels like the sky is falling here all the time. But imagining it through Afghani eyes or Haitian eyes, the lead you take is, you can say all day, I don't know how they do it. But as long as they're doing it, we got to, find our way to do it with them.
What changes the trajectory down there, Sean? What can be done? People have tried, maybe not hard enough in many ways, but how do we change the story of Haiti from what it seems to be perpetually?
I think the Haitians are going to do that. And I think the way that they're going to do that is because of this resiliency that they do have, this incredible strength, because they have absolutely no addiction to comfort. That in this world where my state's on fire right now, right, with all of the things that are going on in the world, they're going to be the population most tested for the difficult days ahead, the climate issues, it's everything. And they're going to be where the human spirit that we look to find strength.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. Private Hammond with everything.
All right, it just me too.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on your face that you are incredibly passionate about this. Is this the work you're most proud of in your life?
It's definitely the people that I'm most proud of, the people that work with CORE. My children, who have both worked with CORE, and all of the volunteers in Haiti, in the United States. You know, one of the things that happened by getting involved with testing and vaccination in the United States was that we were organizing local people. And to watch them take ownership of the programs, young people, the amount of will to service. And this is probably, if I had a magic wand and got one free day to create something in legislation, it would be mandatory service. And that, you know, after you do your time, we will pay for your college education. But instilling that, and there's so much hunger for it, I don't know if we need to mandate it, we just need to help navigate it and then also incentivize it in ways that people can, you know, take that early experience of service. Young people get involved in service, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And they understand that they can matter, that they can make a difference to somebody, which is the same thing as understanding that your vote matters. You know, it's just being part of the team.
Being engaged, yeah.
And understanding that with independence, there's also interdependence.
Yeah, you mentioned the sky falling, but what gives you hope? You're somebody who goes out and takes action, whether you're wading through the streets of New Orleans during Katrina or down in Haiti or doing something about the COVID crisis right now. What gives you hope for our country right now?
You know, I don't want to claim a false hope. And at the same time, you know, there was a phrase by the Indian poet Laureate Tagore that I saw, and it was, "Every new child born is proof that God is not yet discouraged of man." And whether you believe in a conventional notion of God or not, which I have questions about, just what that phrase describes, I think I use it as a bit of a mantra.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Sean, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
Flag Day. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
We got to get you one of those sliced steaks with mustard for old time's
Excellent.
sake.
Excellent.
Great to see you, man. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to Cooking Up a Storm. I'm Al Roker. Today, we have reached the 6th and final episode of our Thanksgiving series, which means we've saved the sweetest for last. I mean, literally. Today, we are talking Thanksgiving dessert, but not just any dessert, the star of desserts. I'm talking pie. And one woman in particular, she is an expert at parsing which flavors to pair with which to bring new and inventive pies to our table. Her name is Maya Camille Broussard, and she partially attributes her unique palate to an acute sense of both taste and smell, a byproduct of her being hard of hearing. So, who better to ask about the best pies to bring to folks' table than this talented chef? You probably remember her from her time on the Netflix reality show Bake Squad, where she was known as a flavor fanatic, and where she made some incredible creations, including an entire edible house. Maya Camille joining me now today with an exciting new recipe that offers a thrilling twist on a classic Thanksgiving treat, sweet potato and plantain pie. Maya Camille, welcome to Cooking Up a Storm. How are you?
I'm good. I'm better now that I'm here with you.
Well, thank you. So tell me about this pie, the sweet potato plantain. How did you come up with this?
So let's talk about sweet potato first.
Okay.
Because historically we have to talk about the origins of that. Sweet potato is pretty much indigenous to the Americas, North America. But when enslaved Africans were brought over here, they were used to yams in Africa. And so sweet potatoes is sort of closely related to the yam. It's the next best thing that we have. So most sweet potato dishes are savory, whether it's sweet potato French fries or roasted sweet potatoes. And in the 18th century, the sweet potato itself was prepared in a custard style the way that they did in England, and it was savory. Similar to how you have a carrot souffle in New Orleans, sweet potato was made in a casserole dish. It wasn't until the 19th century that it became a dessert in the South, of course, where a lot of the culinary ingenuity resides. It is a child of the South, and it is a child of the Black community. When I thought about what I wanted to do, if I were to do anything to remix this already timeless dessert that people feel some kind of way about this sweet potato pie.
Oh my gosh. You could start a fight about that.
We're going to fight about it, and we're going to argue about which is better, that or pumpkin.
Yeah, it's not a fight.
I know.
It's sweet potato. Why even bother with pumpkin?
Why?
I don't understand.
Why? When you have sweet potato right in front of you.
Maybe because people had leftover pumpkin from jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween, and they just felt, we got to do something with this.
Who knows? But you know what? I'll keep my sweet potato. But I had dinner one night in Barbados, and the chef made mashed sweet potatoes, but it had plantains in it, or plantains, as you like to say. But, immediately I thought, okay, how can I make this work in a pie? From a technique standpoint, it is a lot of steps. You have to roast your sweet potato. You have to fry your plantains. It's not simply throwing ingredients together in a bowl. And I didn't know if it was going to work because plantains are starchier than sweet potatoes. It's multiple steps. That's time consuming. It's not hard to do. It takes time and requires patience. But
it's like life.
Like life.
So growing up, what kind of pies did you like? At
Thanksgiving.
For sure. Sweet potato.
Sure. Yeah, I'm from Chicago, and so a lot of families, Black families from Chicago, are migrated, products of the Great Migration from the South. So our food is very Southern, dare I say, soulful, but it's definitely foods that we grew up on. My mother grew up on even more Southern foods than, she's rutabaga.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, that's very old school. I don't eat that. She'd be like, oh, I want some rutabaga for Thanksgiving. I'm like, Mom,
yeah.
Who are you?
You talk about the fact that because you have a difficulty with one sense, your hearing, that it has heightened your sense of taste and your sense of smell. How has that influenced you as a baker?
I don't want to say I have a perfect palate, but I can smell and taste things and pick up on things that other people may not be able to, or at least do it sooner. I'm that way with taste. I'm like, what is that? I taste this, I taste that. But did you know that women make better tasters, like even as sommeliers, and men make better noses when it comes to perfumes?
Ooh.
So I think that also being a woman helps.
We did a profile with you on the third hour of today, and we talked about your dad and how he influenced you. Tell us a little bit about that.
My dad was obsessed with pies. This man would wake up on Saturday morning and put on an apron. The apron said, "Skinny people make bad cuts." And he would actually wear a toque.
Wow.
A toque.
Little chef's hat.
Yes. In the kitchen. I'm looking at him like, dude, you are not a professional chef. Like, why are you wearing a toque? But he took it so seriously. And he was obsessed with pies and quiches and anything made in the crust. Tarts, you know, literally. The man was obsessed with food. Not to lie about it. But he really had a special place in his heart for pie. And so he would wake up, make a quiche or a pie, and then call somebody and brag about it.
It even influenced the name of your company, Justice of the Pies.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from?
I was trying to think of something that could be a nice play on the fact that he was a criminal defense attorney. My dad nicknamed himself the Pie Master, so my aunt wanted me to call the company the Pie Master's Daughter. And I was like, nah, let's be a little bit more creative. What about Justice of the Pies? And my cousin was like, I like that. That's different. And as I do with most things in my life, I knew I wanted to be purposeful. The Justice of the Pies is L3C. We are a social mission-based company. Our goal is to positively impact the lives of others. So while I typically tend to focus on fighting food insecurities, that could mean feeding the front line. Mm-hmm. There are many different ways in which I show up.
When you get invited to, say, a celebration like Thanksgiving, is it because people love you and want you there, or is it because they want your pie?
If they want my pie, then I have to buy it. No, usually I'm going to tell you something that is kind of sad. Typically on Thanksgiving Day, in the past 6 years, I'm in bed. I'm exhausted.
Wow.
I've stayed up for 48 hours the night before. My mom would make me a plate and tell me to come downstairs and get it. I get it. I eat, and then I eat myself to sleep. I put myself in a food
Because
coma.
you've been baking
Because I've been
right
baking.
up to... Well, I guess I would think Thanksgiving must be like your Super Bowl.
Yeah. But you know what I love about Thanksgiving, though? Even if I'm not able to eat everything I want on the day of, I have leftovers for a whole week. That's the best part. Like, take leftover turkey and then make a turkey salad, almost like a chicken salad with some dried cranberries in it. And dressing. Make a sandwich, layer it with some dressing, some turkey salad, and then have a slice of pie.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses.
All right, it just made too.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
We saved the best for last because dessert is the best part. So how do we prep the sweet potato?
First thing first is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. We want to bake about 1 pound of sweet potato. So it could take about an hour and a half to 2 hours, yes. So now I'm scooping out the flesh. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
The very important thing when you make a sweet potato pie is you gotta get the little fiber strings off.
Oh.
So you see these fibers?
Uh-huh.
When we mash it, and the fibers tend to naturally stick to whatever instrument you're using.
Oh.
Here's a fiber right here. You know why this is so important?
Why?
Because I don't need somebody's southern grandma complaining to me about strings in a sweet potato pie. You know?
I see there's a couple on the
No,
on the masher
Meemaw, there's
themselves.
no strings in my sweet potato pie. So now that's 1/2 component of our
Okay.
pie. We're gonna move over to our plantain or plantain.
And many people think, oh, it's a banana.
It's a banana. It's a cousin of the banana.
Ah.
But when you eat this green, it's extremely starchy. When people make tostones, they may use a green plantain, but we're making plantains or plantains, and so we want it to look black with yellow spots. We want it to be very ripe. And one way to ensure that you can speed up the ripening process is to throw a couple of these in a plastic bag that you would get from the grocery store and tie it up.
Oh, okay.
And that helps to speed it up. But we've got a heavy bottom pot filled with oil and vegetable oil. You want a non-flavored oil.
Something kind of neutral.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So we put this on medium-high heat, which is about 380 degrees.
Right.
Now we're going to take our plantain, and we're going to use a chef's knife, or you could use a regular butter knife, you know, whatever you have in your home. We're going to trim off the edges. When I'm trimming it off in a crosswise position. So that means slightly at an angle.
Okay.
And then I'm going to slice down the center of the plantain.
Carefully.
Carefully. And actually, I'm going to peel away half of it.
And it's funny, it really does look like a banana.
It does. Like I said, it's a cousin of it, but this is not something that you could eat raw. It is something that you have to cook. Yes. Some people use this for flour even. This is a really cool, I'm not gonna say vegetable, fruit. The reason why I almost said vegetable is because a lot of people eat this savory. They may put some like chili slices on this, garlic, but we're eating it in a sweet form. So we're going to slice this crosswise. And I leave the skin on the bottom so it doesn't stick to the bottom of my cutting board because it is starchy.
Oh, that's a chef tip.
So now we're going to drop this in the pot of oil. I'm gonna take off the bottom skin. So let's drop that in carefully. Nice sizzle.
Yes.
Yes. That's how you know your oil is hot. You can also test your oil by putting a sprinkle of flour in there, and if it starts to kind of bubble up the way it is now, that's how you know your oil is hot.
And I notice it's floating up to the top once it starts really getting fried.
And that's because I have enough oil in there. So people ask, well, how much oil should I put in there? And it's kind of hard to give an exact answer because I don't know the size of your vessel. But it should definitely be more than 2 inches, you know, 3 to 4 inches maybe, because you do want your slices to float. So when we're making this pie, I tend to use maybe 2 or 3 plantains. Sometimes I do 4 because I like to snack on some after I'm frying it. So we're gonna let this fry for 3 to 4 minutes until it's nice golden brown.
What is it about? Why, I myself don't trust anybody who doesn't like pie. What is it about pie that seems to be that common denominator? Everybody loves pie.
It's nostalgic. I think that people start out with apple pie. It's something that's not trendy. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's not a hybrid of like a donut and a croissant. You know, which is cool, but we don't know what the lifespan of that is going to be, whereas the lifespan of a pie is forever and ever, amen.
I mean, there have been variations like the hand pie, things like that, but we like pie.
Pie and anything encased in the crust is a food of the people.
Maya, is it a cheat? Because to me, the toughest part about the pie is the crust. Is it okay to like buy a pre-made crust and, you know, bake that up and then put your own filling in?
Look, if you won't tell, I won't tell. Of course it's okay. I mean, it's completely understandable. Sometimes you need a shortcut because you want to focus all of your energy on the filling. Sometimes I use pre-made puff pastry. So I'm using a mesh strainer, right, to take my plantain out of the oil, but you can also use a slotted spoon. Just as long as we have something with holes in it that allows us to shake off the excess oil. And then I'm going to put the plantains onto a plate that is lined with paper towel.
Is that to absorb the extra oil?
All of that extra oil. So here's another key. We have our sweet potato puree. This has to be chilled. This needs to be cooled. But this, because it's starchier, needs to be warm. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our plantains that we just pulled from the oil. We're going to place that into our bowl with these sweet potatoes that's already pureed.
A little toasty?
It's hot. I kind of want to save this one, you know, like I told you, I like
snacking?
to snack on it.
Well, there you go. That's your reward.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today. Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, so I use either, if you don't have these tools, you can use a potato masher like we used before. But to get it really, really smooth, we need an immersion blender.
Oh.
We are going to take that. What's happening is the sweet potatoes that's chilled is cooling our plantains as we blend it. Also, this is the perfect time to reduce the heat in your oven to 350 degrees.
Okay.
Okay. I gotta put you to work. So when we started mashing, the sweet potatoes is a bright orange color. But now that we've added the plantains, we see that the color is now yellow-orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now that that's mashed, we can move on to our filling. So we have our mixer, our mixing bowl with a paddle attachment.
Okay. You haven't mastered the art of talking and eating. See, on the Today Show, I'm constantly eating, so I know how to talk and eat. But that's so you take a smaller bite, see, because you took the bigger bite.
I know. I was trying to be cute with it, but so we have our mixer with a paddle attachment, and we have the butter and brown sugar, light brown sugar. And remember, when you measure it, make sure it's packed so that you have the correct measurement. Also, your butter needs to be at room temperature. It needs to be softened because we're going to cream the butter and the sugar together. So let's turn that on.
And you gotta maybe push down the on.
So whenever you're mixing something in a mixing bowl with the paddle attachment, you have to make sure that you always scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl to make sure that your ingredients are well incorporated. Nice creamy. So we're gonna whip this for 3 minutes until it's a nice creamy fluffy mixture.
Ooh, that's a good evil laugh. I like that. You could be a supervillain. A supervillain who bakes. I like that. That's very good.
So now we need a binder.
Okay.
What's gonna bind our pie custard together? Eggs.
All right.
So we need to crack in 2 whole large eggs.
While it's being beaten?
No, you can put the egg in first. Beautiful. It's a beautiful egg.
Yeah, those are lovely.
Okay, so let's go ahead and beat that. You want to blend that until it is well combined. You see how your sugar and butter is sticking to the side? So that's when you need to turn it off. Oh, you're gonna scare me. Okay, turn it off. Now scrape down the side and the bottom. And then we're going to turn it back on to make sure that the eggs are completely combined with the butter. You know, eggs and butter are like oil and water. So you have to mix it really well to make sure that you create an emulsion. This is not a cake, so we don't necessarily need to make sure it rises or anything, but you know how when you're making cakes, you have to add an egg at a time?
Right.
That's not the case with this because it's more dense. But we do want it to be nice and fluffy. Oh, look at that. And see, your brown sugar is now getting lighter. The whole mixture is now getting lighter.
It looks more chiffony.
Yeah. Ooh, that's beautiful. All right, so now we have to add some flavor.
Okay, flavor.
So we got cinnamon, nutmeg, so that's a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a half teaspoon of nutmeg, some salt, kosher salt. The reason why I use kosher salt is because the crystal is bigger, and so it's going to incorporate more easily with your filling. Also, table salt has sort of like metallic taste.
Because it's iodized.
Because it's iodized.
Yes.
And now we have vanilla. Always a nice healthy amount of that. This is 2 teaspoons. Let's mix that together. Yeah, there you go. Scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Because you see the vanilla is kind of hanging out on the sides of the bowl here to go inside. Can't hang out on the bowl, buddy. Beautiful. I love this color. Perfect. So now we have our mashed sweet potatoes and mashed plantain. Oh wait, I'm sorry, before that, evaporated milk.
Oh, evaporated milk.
Let's pour that in while it's mixing. Perfect. So now we are going to turn this off.
Okay.
Now add the sweet potato and plantain puree. Beautiful orange, yellow blend of a vegetable and a fruit. Every last bit. Can't waste it. Not after all that hard work we put in, mashing it. Perfect. So now that we've got the pureed mashed potatoes in there, let's go ahead and whip it back up. Do you see how it's like little white specks? That's good. That lets us know that our filling has cooled down enough and the milk is still curdled. If your filling, your pureed vegetables are too hot, it's going to melt that. You're not going to get a nice caramelization on top of your pie.
So this is what gives, when you bake it, that crackly top?
Only sweet potato has that. Pumpkin doesn't have that, which is why I'm team sweet potato.
Team sweet potato.
All right, so now we can turn it off.
Okay.
And we have a pie plate that is lined with an all butter pie crust. But if you go to the store and get a crust, that's perfectly fine too.
Now, do we bake this first or do we put the filling in?
We put the filling
in first.
There is no need to pre-bake it. That's a great question. All right, so here you are.
Okay.
Now I'm just going to take my silicone spatula and just simply pour it right into the pie shell. This is an open face pie, so that means it only has a bottom crust. There is no top crust.
Liquid
so
gold.
Now I can spread it out with the silicone spatula so that it's even. People say you should bake a pie in a glass pie plate because you can see the crust as it's baking, but also it's supposed to be more even. I use aluminum pie plates, but I also love the idea of a nice thick cast iron.
Cast iron.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So now that we've reduced the heat in our oven, we're gonna take this, put it in our oven.
Okay. Ta-da. And how long will it be in there?
45 minutes, you know.
But fortunately,
look, it depends on the attitude of your oven. Ovens have temperament.
the attitude of your oven.
Yes. Ooh. Look at how beautiful that is.
That is gorgeous. The texture of
Caramelization,
that.
that crust is perfectly golden brown. You did the perfect thing. You're cutting the pie slice with the tip of your knife. That gives us a cleaner slice. Look at you.
From many years of trial and error, I've kind of discovered this.
Yeah. The first slice is always the hardest.
My oh my. Wow, look at that. Ooh.
Gotta give me a slice too. Bon appetit.
Wow. That's the smoothest, like sweet potato pie. Is it the plantain that helps it with that consistency?
No, remember I said blend those sweet potatoes so Meemaw will complain about strings in your pie?
You did say that. You
gotta blend it right. Do you taste a slight layer in the flavor profile of the plantain? So it doesn't, sometimes when you create something new, it doesn't have to be extremely different.
No.
It's just a small nuance that changes how you eat a pie. And it makes me smile.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Maya Camille, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm thankful for a lot of things. You know, I wake up and I have a gratitude journal and I write down 10 things on most days. 10 things that I'm thankful for. But I think that I am most thankful for abundance. I have an abundance of people who support me. I have an abundance of love from those who truly know me and who are rooting for me. I have an abundance. I have a queen-size bed that I sleep in. I have gas in my car. I have full fridge all the time. I'm never lacking in food. I really am grateful for just being able to be comfortable in life because I know it's not lost on me that everyone doesn't live the way that I live.
Well, we support everything you're doing with these pies. They are fantastic. Maya Camille Broussard, thank you so much for being...
No, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. And especially for the sweet potato plantain pie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to have a bite. What
That's
about
right.
you?
And thank you for joining us today for the final edition of Cooking Up a Storm. I'm Al Roker. Happy Thanksgiving.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Mitch, first I want to say I love seeing your face.
Oh, thank you.
There's something about you and your presence, and when you walk into a room, something happens. We should point out, as we're sitting down to do our podcast, you did not come in alone. You came in with two young kids who were from Haiti, from the orphanage that you care for.
Right.
And look, there's a lot of things you could be doing in this moment. And your eyes are full right now. Like, I feel like they're full. I guess, why?
Why take care of orphans? Because they're orphans.
Mm-hmm.
These kids that I have with me, one's 15 and one's 16. They've been with me since they were 4 and 5 years old.
Oh.
So, for me, they are my children, and there's 53 of them right now. There'll be more, and then there's some of them going off to college, so we're losing them, we're getting them in. But I don't know, Hoda, I mean, sometimes things just fall in front of you, and it wasn't like I was looking to do this. I'd never had any experience running an orphanage before, that's for sure. I just happened to be down there, and I happened to be at that place, and I happened to ask the guy who had been running it, how come the kids aren't eating? There's no, we're building all this stuff for you, and the kids aren't eating. And he said, well, I don't have any money to operate this, and I'm 84 years old. And,
Wow.
and in one of those moments, I said, well, I could probably do this. How hard could this be? And he said, thank you, Jesus, hallelujah, here it is. And I've been running it ever since.
Okay, I want to get to the orphanage. I was just so struck by the fact that that's how you walked in here.
Well, they wanted to meet you.
And they were such, what wonderful children.
This is their first time out of the orphanage. I mean, they all said to me, we've never slept anywhere but here in our beds, because, they came at 3, 4, 5, they don't really remember. And I said, well, you're going to sleep someplace else. And when I told them we were coming to New York, I said, just get ready, because you're not going to have seen anything like this.
Right, there's a lot. There's a lot to take in.
It's a lot, yeah.
I just want to take it back, because I feel like you're like full of life lessons, and you write about a lot of them in your books. And I feel like we're all kind of hungry for something, for purpose and meaning, for more than what we do. And the old you was a guy who was like a lot of people who I know. The guy chasing it, the guy running after it, the guy getting, you're an award-winning sports writer, man. You had it all happening. Money was coming in, fame was coming in. You had it all going. And yet somehow in those moments, you didn't feel fulfilled.
No, I'm not alone, like you suggested. I was, and it happened right at my mid-30s, that I was lucky enough to have an intervention by fate. I happened to see Maury Schwartz, who was an old college professor of mine, on TV talking to Ted Koppel about what it was like to die. It was the first that I even realized that he was dying. And I did not understand it at that moment, but when I look back on my life, that was God or fate sending me like, okay, we're going to put a stop sign right in front of you right now, and you're not going to be able to keep going forward. You're going to have to turn. Now let's see if you turn to the right or to the left. Let's watch what happens.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I turned towards Maury, began going to visit him every Tuesday, and that changed the trajectory of my life along with all its priorities. And ever since then has been, an attempt to try to live up to those things as opposed to the things that were driving me the first 37 years of my life.
Like he was a teacher, obviously, and still is. As you reflect on Tuesdays with Maury now, I know he taught you life lessons in the moment. What were the big ones he taught you then? And then what have you kind of figured out since?
The biggest one or two that he told me that stay with me. You know, I get asked that all the time. What's the biggest lesson for you? Because people have their own. One was death ends a life, but not a relationship. Death ends a life, but not a relationship. Now, a lot of people end at that sentence. They say, oh, that's so profound. I said, well, there's an adjunct to that sentence. And the adjunct is death ends a life, but not a relationship. But you have to have worked on that relationship while you were alive in order for death not to end it. So if you don't spend any time investing in those relationships, death is death. Dead with a capital D. You're done. You're bye-bye. Your money, they're going to fight over. They always do. Your beautiful body's going to rot in the ground next to the fat guy. You know, it doesn't matter. Everything that you worked on here on earth, gone. But the one thing that you had control of, sharing yourself with other people, giving to other people, spending time with other people, teaching other people, you didn't spend any time doing. You're too busy working. So then when you're dead, you are D-A-A-D, dead, gone. So death ends a life, but not a relationship, if you work on those relationships while you're here. And I was not doing that.
Because you were busy,
Right. I was like busy. I mean, that word gets so, busy.
Ridiculous.
How many times have we used it?
Yes.
I've been so busy. It's been so busy. So busy.
And
so
it's
busy.
almost like wow, you're busy?
Yeah. People admire
They
the
love
word
that.
busy. Yeah. Great. Oh, great. How's it going? I'm so busy. Oh, great. And, you realize there's such a price to the word busy because it means that you can't, busy in Creole is occupé, like from occupied. And that's like more true. When you think about it, it means you're so occupied with whatever you're doing, you're not paying attention to something else. And I was like that. So, that was the first one. And Maury certainly taught me that. And the other big one was giving is living. And this came about, if you have 60 seconds for an anecdote.
Please.
Okay.
You have, by the way, I'm making space for you, Mitch Albom. You please.
Okay. Well,
this is your stage.
It's a new format. I don't know how long I'm supposed to talk. But, I wasn't the only person to visit Maury, obviously, and people came on other days other than Tuesdays. And sometimes they came on Tuesdays, and I began to observe that there were a lot of people who had seen him on Nightline, and they were very uncomfortable with somebody who was dying. They didn't quite know what to say. They would come in all prepared. They have pictures. It was like going to be a session.
A thing, yeah.
And they would go into his office, the door would close, and they would come out an hour later in tears. But they'd be crying about their job, their divorce, their love life. And I would say, what happened? They'd say, well, I don't know. I went in and, I tried to cheer him up, but, after about 5 minutes, he started asking me about my life. And so I started telling him, and they started really asking me, so I really started telling me, he started asking, give me advice. And next thing I know, I was crying. I went in to try to cheer him up, and he ended up cheering me up. So after a while, I went into him and I said, I don't get it. Yeah. Like, if ever anyone had finally earned the sentence, let's not talk about your problems. Let's talk about my problems. It will be you. So why are you doing this? And he said, Mitch, why would I ever take from people like that? Taking makes me feel like I'm dying. Giving makes me feel like I'm living. And that was one of those like lightning bolt things that to this day I can still see him saying it to me, and I can still hear him saying it to me. And it was so, when you hear something that's so profoundly true and yet you were unaware of it until that moment, it feels like somebody just clonked you with a shovel, right? And I'm saying, well, here's a guy who's dying, and the opportunity to get from other people is there for him at every moment, and he wants nothing to do with it. He just wants to give. There's something there that if I can apply it to my life when I'm young enough and healthy enough, I'm going to be a lot happier. And that was the turning point for me.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
That's your
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Is that ready? Are you ready? Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All.
Then, even because the other days of the week, I would imagine you were still sprinting. Were you able to apply like the things he said then?
Not immediately.
Yeah.
I think this stuff is a slow boil.
Yeah.
I think it gets into, first you go home and you talk about it with your wife.
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, he's right, And so now that's two people who are kind of telling you. And you begin to start, it's like binoculars. When you first put them up, they're never in focus, but you just start to turn those things and they start to get in focus and you realize I'm turning the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to keep turning until they get really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what happened with that idea. I said, this is the right direction. And I just kept turning it until it basically became my life.
So the hard charging you, because you were obviously hitting your stride in your field and at that moment. Did you, how long did it take for you to really feel the change?
It took until Tuesdays with Maury came out.
Oh, wow.
Because, again, like I say, this was God or fate just saying, okay, let's see what direction you're going to go. So I took the first act of the Giving is Living, honestly, was writing the book about Maury because I wrote it to pay his medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
And all the money went to him to pay his medical bills. It wasn't supposed to be, we weren't supposed to be sitting here, Hoda. You were never supposed to know who I was. I was never supposed to enter your world. I was going to be living out in the Midwest and being a sports writer. That was it. And, they printed, 20,000 total copies for the whole world.
Is that right?
Yeah. I thought I'd have them in the trunk of my car for the rest of my life. At Thanksgiving, I'd be giving them out to family members. And so it wasn't supposed to be a big book, but I wanted to help him pay his medical bills because he didn't have the money to do it. And it was the first thing that was in front of me after he had kind of made this revelation about giving is living. And I'm saying, well, I can apply this right here. Because he told me, he said, I'm very afraid I don't have the money to pay for all these bills. And when I die, they're going to have to sell the house. And he said, I'm going to have two deaths. One when I go in the ground and one when I realize all the damage I'm doing in my family by incurring all these costs. So I began to start up this book, and I went right around where we are here sitting, around New York City, went around to a bunch of different publishers and said, I just need this much money to pay his bills. That's it. That's all I want. It's an amazing thing. I'm learning all these lessons from an old man talking to a young man. I think it could be a good book. And we got told no everywhere we went. Everywhere. No, boring. Nobody wants to read about that. It's depressing. You're a sports writer. I can't tell you how many people just told us to take a walk.
Did you almost throw in the towel, or did you just?
I almost did, except that it was for somebody else. I would have if it was for me.
Wow.
And that was when I learned that when you do things for other people, you have much more energy and passion than when for yourself. At least I do. I find it very hard to ask for things for myself. I don't even like asking for a reservation for, at a restaurant. But if it's for one of my kids, I'll go through a wall, and I'll be a pit dog.
So what happened?
We found one publisher who agreed 3 weeks before Maury died to publish the book. And I said, we need to get the money up front because I need to give it to him while he's alive. And I went, and Maury didn't know that I was doing any of this. And I went to him a few weeks before he died, and I said, listen, I got some good news. This taping, he wanted me to write a thesis. And I didn't have the heart to tell him I wasn't enrolled in college anywhere. I'm not really sure I was going to write a thesis. Don't you have to be in school to write a thesis? And so I said to him, I got some good news. This conversation we've been having. Yeah. I said, well, there's a publisher. I found a publisher who wants to publish it. He said, really? Who? I said, Doubleday. He said, ooh, I heard of them. I said, yeah, well, not only that, but they're going to give us some money for it, and I want you to take all the money and pay your bills and don't die a second death. And I always tell people that for me, that was the end of Tuesdays with Maury, for me, because I had finally done one nice thing for this man who had done so many nice things for me up to that point in my life. I had finally actually learned a lesson and put it into action, And so really it began there. But then when you asked that second part of your question, like when it kind of changed my life, well, from there I didn't write a word of Tuesdays with Maury until after Maury died. So he never saw any of it. That's what's so remarkable about that book. He continues to teach all these people, and Maury never saw a word of the book. It just goes to show you don't know in this life how you're going to influence things when you're gone. He had no idea that we'd be talking about him now, 26 years later.
Yeah.
But he didn't need to, because that wouldn't have been the reason to do it. He wouldn't have said, hey, let's talk now so that Hoda will be asking you some questions one day on her podcast. He did it because it was from his heart. Wow. And when you do the things from your heart, they're right.
What did you lose the day he died?
A guidepost. Every week that I was in there, I knew that I could ask any question about my life and that he would give me the right answer. Not only because he was a great teacher and I loved him, but because he was about to step out of this world and he had it in perspective. And he was able to say to me so many times on little things that I would bring up, he'd say, Mitch, this matters. Mitch, this doesn't matter. Or, Mitch, you think this matters, but when you get to where I am, and then he would always say, and you will get to where I am, it's not going to matter. And I lost all of that. And I didn't have it again until my parents became, older and frail before I lost both of them. And I would have discussions with my father the same way.
Did you?
Yeah.
Your dad was always a teacher too, or?
He was quiet, more reserved, but as he got older and he suffered a stroke and he's, for a few years there he was limited in his movement, but I think he realized that the end was coming, and we had some good talks. That was the first time since Maury died that I felt that I was getting that kind of wisdom too, because he knew also life is short. We learned something at the end that we don't have at the beginning. We just get this perspective, and it's like you look over the precipice and you see, okay, this is really what life is. And then if you're lucky, you get to turn around and tell the people you love, hey, I'm about to go there. Let me tell you what I just realized.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
And I paid attention.
When was your dad the proudest of you?
Wow. That has never been asked of me before. I like to think it was when I got married, because I think he saw me as, driven, like you were relating before, and to the point of maybe missing out on that part of life, because I didn't get married till I was 37. And, there were a lot of years there in your 20s, when your parents are going,
what are you doing?
Well, yeah, what are you doing? What about, well, how about this one? She's nice, but this one. And so I think I remember when Janine and I told my parents, it was on my dad's 65th birthday, and we were all gathered as a family, and that's when we broke the news. And I remember him jumping up from the table, like jumping up. I never saw my dad jump, and he jumped up from the table, had this big smile on his face. And I said, I've never seen that. Like, you ever do that with your parents?
Yeah.
Like, I've not seen that look before. I thought I saw every look. I thought I knew everything about you. I've lived my whole life with you. And he gave me a look that I'd never seen before. So I think maybe it was that moment that he said, okay, we pulled him back from the from the abyss. He's going to be married. He'll have kids. He'll be a family person. Because my dad always felt that that's all that mattered. You know, that was what was important to him.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. You think you'll run for office one of these days?
I'm not saying no to anything.
Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today. Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Did your dad get to see you with your kids?
Yes.
He did.
In fact, my dad met Chica.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. That was special.
You've written so many beautiful books. Finding Chica was so many moved me to my core, but that book in particular had so many moments in it. And it's about a young girl from your orphanage who you bring home with you to help care for her in all kinds of ways, you and your wife. And did you guys ever want kids of your own? You did?
Yeah. But, I dragged my feet on that.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's not so easy.
Yeah.
And it's not like they told us in high school. And, that was my fault. We didn't get married till late, so we didn't have a big ramp up. And I shouldn't, it's probably the biggest regret of my life. But God works in funny ways, because now I've got 53 children, and so does my wife. And we look at them as our kids, and we know everything there is about them. And I'm in Haiti every single month. These kids come up and stay with us, and they're all going to go to college right down the street from us. 4 of them are already there. We see them every weekend and during the week, and they come over. So I was very lucky. God granted me this escape hatch. Well, you missed out on the natural way of doing it, but as Chica taught me, there's no one way to make a family. She was our daughter in every sense of the word, and I would never think of her as anything otherwise.
Will you relay, there's a part of the book, and it's about how you had to go off and write your column for the Super Bowl or something, and she was there in the house.
Yeah. It was a radio show.
Yeah, radio show.
Yeah. Well, at this point, Chica suffered from DIPG, which is a brain tumor that hits young kids, usually between ages 4 and 9, and usually takes them within 4 months. And we were advised to just take her back to Haiti and let her die because it wasn't, it was going to happen to her. And I knew that this kid was tough because she was rough and tumble from the time she came to us. She survived the earthquake when she was 3 days old. Her house fell down around her, and she and her mother, the roof fell backwards, from what I understand, and so it didn't land on top of them. It was just made out of tin, so it fell backwards, and she was exposed to the heavens with the earth when the earth stopped trembling, but they were alive, and she was 3 days old. So I used to say to her, "You survived an earthquake when you're 3 days old. You can do anything." And So we said, she was 5, and we said, we're not taking her back to die. I would never take a kid to die. We're going to fight as long as she wants to fight. And it turned out to be 2 years. And a lot of that 2 years was, you know, she was buoyant and funny and had her faculties. She got swollen by steroids and things like that, treatments. We took her all over the world. We lived in Germany for a while, all this stuff. But she was there. She was present. And towards the end, she couldn't walk anymore. That was one of the things that she lost. But she was fine with that because I carried her everywhere. So I was her transportation. I'd take her to the bathroom. I'd take her to the car. I'd take her, and she would just lift her arms up and, okay, taxi. You know? So we were sitting at the table, and we were coloring. And I looked at my watch. I realized I was late for this radio show. And I said, oh, Chica, I got to go. And she said, no, Mr. Mitch, just stay here and color with me. And I said, Chica, I have to work. And she said, Mr. Mitch, I have to play. Like, it was just perfectly parallel. And I said, but Chica, you don't understand. This is my job. And she crossed her arms, made that little pouty face, and she said, no, it isn't. Your job is carrying me. And just like that moment with Maury, you know, I was like, oh, my God. What a sentence. You know, I felt my whole soul drop down to my feet. And she didn't realize, of course, what she said, but I did. You know, and of course she was right. My job was carrying her, not just at that moment, but for her life. And all of our jobs as parents are to carry our children through the hard times and the good times. And I realized that metaphor, you know, because I would always, I mean, she was heavy, you know, and I would have to really fill my arms up. And I realized, like, I used to carry around my books, my work, my awards, my paycheck, my status, my whatever it was. And then you have to drop all that to carry a 6- and 7-year-old around because she can't walk herself. And you realize it's no comparison. And what we choose to fill our arms up with and what we choose to carry is actually what ends up defining us. It's not us, it's what we choose to carry. And carrying her was the most honorable, best thing I've ever had an opportunity to do. And when I miss her, which is every minute of every day, I physically miss the sensation of every time I would lift her, I can do right here, and her head would go right here, and right next on my shoulder. And it was a privilege to carry her, you know.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends of today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready? Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Do you ever say to yourself or wonder, like, there's so much love and there's also pain that goes with. Do you ever play the balancing game? Like, a lot of people don't get the great love that you have, but they they also don't feel the great loss.
Somebody much smarter than me once said that the only whole heart is a broken heart. And I have come as I've gotten older to realize that that's true. My mom used to say to me, I said, how old do you want to be, Mom? Why don't you live to 100? And she would say, I don't want to be the last one left. I don't want to watch everybody I love go. And of course, when you're younger, you don't really understand that. You don't understand how time runs out. But when you get older, and especially when your parents go, and you're kind of next in line now, you're the old one of the family, you start to think about that a lot. And I realized that they have to go hand in hand. They have to go hand in hand. And if you want to know those highs of that kind of love, the kind of love that can break your heart when you lose it, then you're going to have to endure the lows when you lose it. You should never, ever have to lose it from a child. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I don't care if they were the worst person in the world. I watched Chica's last breath. My wife and I, we were on both sides of her in bed, and I carried her out to the hearse or car, whatever it's called. They were kind enough to all wait outside. They weren't inside the house. And as Haitian tradition is, you wash the body and nice and clean, and she had a beautiful dress, and I carried her in that dress out to that car. And when they took her away from me, I can't really describe that moment, except it literally was like somebody was able to reach inside my chest and they pulled half of my soul out and put it in that car and drove away with it. And I fell, physically fell to the concrete of the driveway, and I couldn't get up. I was just sobbing. And my wife Janine was with me too. And that's the flip side of loving somebody so much. That's the flip side of loving somebody. But try to put a little positive on this.
Okay, yes.
And in this new book that I wrote, which is about, I don't know, go into the whole thing, but it's about a bunch of people who were shipwrecked on a boat.
It's called The Stranger in the Lifeboat.
It's called The Stranger in the Lifeboat.
Yes.
And one of these survivors of a boat crash claims to be God, because they were all calling, God help us, and then he floats. After 3 days, he just floats out of the ocean, and they pull him in, and they say, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm the Lord." "And what are you doing here?" "Well, you asked for me.
You called for me.
You called for me." And at one point later in the book, one of the characters says to him, "Why did you take my wife?" He's mourning his wife. And he goes into this talk about how I know that all of my children cry when they lose their loved ones, but I promise you, those who are lost are not crying. And, I think I wrote that almost as therapy, because I like to think of Chica like I lost her, but heaven gained her, and she got her smile back, and she got her running back. And when I wrote that sentence, I remember I was typing it, and sometimes you labor with a sentence when you're a writer. Wrong word, the wrong verb, and that one just spilled out. You cry, but I assure you they do not. And I thought, okay, that came out way too easy for it to be, just writing. There's something more than writing.
I have just for the record, I have chills like right now, right all over me.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, right? 5 seconds. 4. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the Penn delivery.
All right, it just me too.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right,
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends in today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
In a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, God is clearly a prominent force in your life, in your writing, and as we sit here, I can feel it too. Just explain God's role in your life.
Well, I separate God from religion, I think it's just too magnificent a world not to have been designed. The human body, which I got to know way more than I wanted to with Chica, and they explain how your brain works and all, every little facet of it. It's just scientists have come to the same conclusion. Scientists who began by saying there's no such thing as God, you can't prove it or whatever, end up saying, well, you know what, there's no other explanation because this is just too complex. And nobody could just sit down and let's design this thing. And the joy in the world is too magnificent for it to just have been, we're just worm food when we're done. So for me, God is the belief that there is a bigger source of everything that's going on here, and therefore it's okay to aspire to bigger things and not just what we're going to get while we're here. Because if we really knew that there was nothing and that it was just a race to the finish, I think everybody would just start, grabbing for themselves and say, what do I care about laws? What do I care about respect? What do I care about decency? It doesn't matter. When we die, we die, we die. As long as I stay one step ahead of the law, I'm fine, But the reason that we don't do that and the reason that we're kind to other people is that we have the sense that there's something bigger than all of us that ties us all together. And some people call that God, some people call that spirituality, some people call that heaven, some people call that humanity. But I think it's all tied up. I think God is more a piece of each one of us than necessarily this big, huge silhouetted figure up in the sky. And I look for the God in everybody. And more often than not, if you look, you find it, And so I try to work that way and write that way.
Do you think, I was just thinking about the number of, kids you're caring for and the long, beautiful road ahead, watching them go all the way to college. Do you think you have a finite amount of space in your heart and soul for others? Or do you think you can, because I was just looking at your plate and it seems super full. And I'm asking for a friend because I also sometimes think I have room for more. And you wonder, do you, or is there always room? Is there a time where you say, okay?
If there is a time where you say, okay, it's when it starts to come at the expense of the other important things in your heart.
Yeah.
But not when it comes at the expense of, well, then we can't take the Italy trip.
Oh, right. Right.
Or then we can't, or then I might not be able to get that, promotion or whatever. Then I think you still probably have some space that you haven't used. But if you find, 53 kids is a lot of kids. But it just makes you say, okay, pretty much every day to pretty much every kid, I will go up when I'm there and say, "Did I tell you today how much I love you?" And you know, sometimes I say it because just I'm teasing them. Sometimes I say I'm forgetting if I did or not. And they say, "You told me this morning." I said, "Okay, as long as I told you." And so you just have to change. You just have to move things around a little bit. And but I think love is a pretty elastic sensation and emotion. And if there is a wall to it, I haven't reached it yet. You know, I think the other part that goes with that is pushing the walls out to receive love. Because a lot of people, Maury taught me that in a very big way. He said, you know, your problem isn't going to be in giving love out to people. It's going to be in accepting it.
Oh.
You know, you don't think you're worth it. You don't think you warrant it.
Wait, that's big.
You know, yeah.
That's a big statement.
Very big. And I think a lot of people, they think their problem with love is that, you know, that they can't find somebody to give it to or whatever. But a lot of the times the problem is they don't know how to receive it. Someone wants to love them and they back off, they run away. It's that joke about, you know, I don't want to be part of any club that would have somebody like me as a member, you know, the Groucho Marx thing. And, you know, you got to get over that too.
Yeah. What? So how did you learn to receive it? What did you do?
I think I began to learn with my wife.
Yeah.
And I really learned with the kids because love and need are often connected, you know. And I see that, you know, they had no one else. They had no one else. And when Chica's brother, so Chica had a baby brother, her mother died giving birth to that baby brother. So therefore, the whole reason that Chica ended up in our lives was because the baby brother was born, who she never saw. Because on the day that he was born, he was taken away, she was taken away, she was brought to us, he was raised by somebody else. On her funeral, day of her funeral in Haiti, the uncle who had been taking care of him found out and came to the funeral. And afterwards they came back to the orphanage. He looks just like she did at 3. He was 3 years old. And the uncle pulls me aside and he says, "Listen, I've been raising this boy, but I have 3 kids of my own. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. We barely can get by. And I'm looking around at your orphanage here. Is there any way you could take him?"
Wow.
So I looked at him and he looked just like Chica. And I said, Moise is his name. Moise like Moses. And I said, Moise. And he looked at me. It was about over there where that trash can is. I said, Vini, which means come. And he took one look at me and then he ran and jumped into my arms. And I said, well, this is a done deal. And we made room. And then we found out that she had an older sister. And we invited her to come. She was being raised by somebody else, not even related to her. And she came and spent a day with us and a night with us. And the next day, they were supposed to come pick her up. And she was 9. And on her own, she went to the security guard and she said, if those people come back for me, tell them I'm not here. She was 9. She wanted to stay. And so now she lives with us.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, you know, you just make room. And, you know, you don't even think about it. You just say, come, and they jump in your arms, and there they are. And then you find the space and you find the room.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back! Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
You think you'll run for office one of these days?
I'm not saying no to anything.
Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
That was amazing.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go. International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
I feel like each of your books is full of like life lessons, and I've been thinking about that with this podcast because I feel like sometimes you want to walk away with something. The lessons from Maury are riveting. The lessons from your own life are blowing my mind. Is there a lesson from your mom maybe that stood out from another book, or is there?
From my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom said, my mom gave me two great pieces of advice. One, the masses are asses. That's what she used to say all the time. And I never knew when I was younger that I would be in a life where I would ever be concerned with masses, you know. But it's grown into that, and you know that when people criticize you or whatever, or just when you analyze the world, and wow, so many people are Snapchatting or whatever, and you realize the masses are asses. So I never forgot that one. And the other one she said is, listen, you're going to be lucky if you have one or two good friends in your life. And if you're really lucky, you'll marry to one of them. And I did. And she did and I did. Yeah, those are the two best things.
You got wise people in your life,
I
huh?
did.
Can you even believe that?
I am a sieve for the wisdom of other people and older people. The one thing that I don't know where it came from in my life, but I'm very, very, very grateful that it did, is that even when I was a little boy, I was interested in older people. And a lot of my friends, cousins, brother, sister, at the Thanksgiving table after the meal was done, and they were older, the uncles and aunts, the old country, they'd all be sitting around. All the other kids bolted. They just bolted from, can we go now? Can we go? And then they went play. I would sit at the table and just listen to them tell their stories. And people ask me about, where'd you learn how to write? What school did you go to? I said, I didn't go to any school to write. I learned how to write at the dinner table and at the Thanksgiving table, just listening to my relatives tell stories and watching how who got to command the floor. And, like if I had an old aunt who was stuck on the details, like it was 1944. No, wait, it was 1945. Maybe it was 44. Shut up. And they'd move off to somebody else. Then I have my Uncle Eddie and he'd say, so there we were coming over the hill, see? And they were shooting at us. And I said to my buddy, look at them, they're over there. And you're riveted. You say, wow, that's how you tell a story.
Right.
He ended up becoming the Eddie of the 5 people you meet in heaven. That's who he was. Yeah. And so I always listened to older people and liked it. And if you look at my life as it's turned out in my books, there's Maury. In Have a Little Faith, there's Rabbi Lewis and Henry Covington. Rabbi Lewis was in his 90s. And then it kind of came full circle with Chica, because I was now the older one, and I was listening to a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And by the way, you can learn just as much from a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old as you can from a 50 and 60-year-old. And I just like absorbing the wisdom of other people and seeing if I can share it with the people that I write for.
I mean, I feel like you live your life of service, and I only know this because, I'm
always hitting you up for charitable
No, you know what
things.
it is? You're never, like you said, you never ask for anything for yourself. Never, never, never. But your charity in Detroit, for the kids in Detroit, the homeless kids in Detroit, I hear your passion on the radio talking about them. And I asked this of my friend, Maria Shriver's a good friend of mine, and she's very much of service. And I said to her, how did this come to be? And she said, well, my mom, started the Special Olympics and my dad started the Peace Corps. She said they never once mentioned the word service. They just did it. I watched them do it. And I never thought anything other than, oh, this is what we do.
Yeah.
It wasn't taught that way, but I was just curious because your life is so full of that.
Yeah.
Was it taught? Was it just something that came?
It wasn't taught on a program kind of let's go do this charity level.
No.
It was taught by my parents in the way that they treated everybody around them.
They did, yeah.
And when they had friends that I later discovered, hit financial troubles, they helped take care of them. And they didn't have money themselves, but they helped take care of them. And when relatives got, sick or had a heart attack, they let them move in. And, their whole life was just taken care of. My dad, when he was 16, my mother was 15. Her father died of a heart attack right in front of her, just keeled over and died, 15. And he moved in when he was 16. It was her first girlfriend. And he moved into the house, basically. He didn't sleep there, but he came over every single day and took care of the household because my grandmother was, she was out of it. She was in shock. And he helped raise my uncle, my mom's younger brother. And I said to him, you were 16.
Yeah, kid.
Like I was 16. All I wanted to do was play in a little rock and roll band and ride my bicycle to my girlfriend's house. And he was like, cooking and helping to pay the bills and all that. And I realized like it's in his DNA and it's in the two of their DNAs to help other people wherever they see. I had an opportunity to do it on a somewhat of a larger stage because I had these chances, I had these opportunities, but I do think it comes from it just comes from the good feeling that you get from doing it. Giving is living. I know Maria a little bit, and I think she feels the same way that you've seen, especially someone like Maria. She's seen the alternative. Yeah. She's seen what it's like to have a lot. And it doesn't give you that same sense of satisfaction. It doesn't. I'm never happier than when I sleep in Haiti on a 4-inch mattress, and I don't ever set an alarm clock because I wake up at 5:45 in the morning with kids screaming and squealing outside the window. And I think, and it's hot and it's uncomfortable and you're not using nice sheets and all, there's no hot water and there's, you're thinking already, well, I can never take a shower until this point. And none of that stuff matters, it's just that you're there, you're needed. And knowing that you're needed is the most satisfying, I think, interaction of the human emotions to help someone who is in need. Makes you calm in a way that grabbing things to make yourself richer or bigger never will.
And I don't want to end with any life advice because you've given us such great advice, but is there something that you've kind of been carrying with you? Is there a little piece we can just kind of put a button on this? And I'm going to, again, remind people that the book is called The Stranger in the Lifeboat. It's out November 2nd. Right? Yeah. And everyone's been a bestseller. Half of them are movies. It's crazy. Do you ever go like, uh-oh, is this going to be a bestseller? Or do you just put it out in the universe and come what may?
The times for uh-oh are long past me. Yeah. I'm just looking for the energy at this point.
Oh,
no uh-ohs.
I like the attitude. I like it.
I don't know. I just find as I get older that the only thing that really energizes me the way that when I was younger everything seemed to is children. And I think as we become more disillusioned with how we as adults are behaving, we look to children. And I see this in you, when we talk all the time. I see this in you, when you talk about your children. It's not just a mother's pride in her children. It's like hope. Yeah. It's like hope. You see your position enables you to see everything, and you always keep a great smile on, but you've seen plenty of ugliness. You've seen plenty of bad behavior by people, and you report on it, and you're talking about it. And then these kids come along, and they're so pure, and they're they're just filled with all the goodness that we have somehow tarnished as we've gotten older or stained or put aside for other things. And you just see in them, maybe if I can guide them correctly, they won't make the mistakes that I made, and they'll keep this joy. They'll keep this passion for life, and you show me your daughter with a lollipop, like a lollipop. It's going to be, or Bianca, who you just met before. She came to New York City with all the buildings and all that, and she wanted to catch a pigeon. That's all she wanted to do was hold the pigeon. I had to tell her, pigeons are poison. They're rats with wings. What are you doing? And she just wanted to hold a pigeon. But you want to keep that, You just want to hold on to that. So anybody who's feeling a little down or a little blue about the world or depressed about the way we're going at each other's throats in this country, find a child that needs help and just spend time with it, and you will be renewed, because that's nature or God's way of just reminding us we were like that once, and there's great goodness and kindness inside every child's heart. If we can just hang on to it, we can learn a lot from them.
Mitch Albom. Mitch, thank you. Thank you for sitting with me. It was beautiful.
Thanks for inviting me. My pleasure. All good?
I want to cry for an hour.
You're a natural at this.
No, I need to go home. I need to.
No.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
A little too short.
Yeah, you're making me cry a couple of times. So you see tears in your eyes, and then I'm start crying. It's very infectious.
By the way, it's so beautiful what you're doing, and these kids, man.
They're great.
Oh, my gosh.
I sent you that latest picture in front of the purple wall.
Love all of it.
So many
It's
of them.
like, so how do you, how does your life work out in over a month? You go to Haiti for part of it, you come home, how do you?
I go to Haiti for usually at least 1 week of the month.
Right.
And I go every month. Then, I'm back. I'm on the phone with them every single day,
of course,
and managing things, and I oversee the whole operation. But we have some good people, good volunteers,
right?
And we're trying to. The main thing now is we're trying to get to a new place, because we're for 12 years we've been. Well, the place itself goes back 30 years. We're in the ghetto, and we have like a third of an acre. We don't have a blade of grass. Everything is busted up concrete. So I'm trying to get us to a new place. That's my big goal.
Okay.
Is to get a new thing. But yeah, I just do the other stuff in between. I get up in the morning. I sit outside my little. I sleep right there with the kids. I just sit outside at the picnic table and I write my books. And they come over and they sit in my lap and they lean against me. And half the time, I'm writing left-handed because they're over here. But I can concentrate down there for whatever reason.
You can.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then when I come home here, I take care of the business part of life and the Detroit stuff, which is there's a lot of it. I'm not one-on-one with the kids in Detroit like I am here, but there's a lot of charities in Detroit. And then I'm back there again, and it's like a great balance, whenever things just start to feel too American, for want of a better word, politics, Fox News, all the stuff that I just disappear, and I go to a place where there's no internet, there's no phones, there's no computers, there's no television, so it's pure childhood. It's poor children. These kids they'll take your arm and put it around them because nobody taught them that it's not cool. Because we don't have cool. We're all a bunch of nerds. There's no cool. We have no mirrors there. Nobody even looks at their reflection. They're just
wow.
everybody. We are so happy that you're spending your Thursday with us here on Today All Day. This is Popstar Plus, where you can find out what the heck is going on in the world of entertainment. We've got a great lineup for you today. Lin-Manuel Miranda stopped by Studio 1A to talk about directing his newest movie musical. And we have a visit from the Queen of Christmas herself, Candace Cameron Bure, previewing her latest Hallmark film. But first, let's get to Popstar. First up, Adele. We're less than 24 hours away from the release of that highly anticipated new album, 30, and in its anticipation of the dropping of that record, Adele's sharing a sneak peek at one of the new tracks, get the Kleenex, to be... Let me tell you what's telling about that moment that you're looking at is 99% of vocalists that I know or have worked with in a house, you go sing a song like this in the bathroom. You go into the shower because of the acoustics. I mean, that's like the fact that Adele just sits in her living room and can just belt that thing out and it sounds that good. Like, wow, that's
crazy.
Yeah, it's a superhuman.
When's the rest of it coming out?
Comes out, midnight tomorrow. So you can
and she's
check
going
it
to
out.
release it from her kitchen.
Yeah. Next up, time to get in the holiday spirit. We're talking about the annual Christmas at Rockefeller Center tree lighting. And while we wait for our beautiful tree to get all decked out, we can announce the all-star studded lineup here. It's happening in 2 weeks. Wednesday, December 1st, Carrie Underwood, Mickey Guyton, Harry Connick Jr., Brad Paisley. I'm just going to tease it. I'm just going to name a few of them. Some of the big names that'll be rocking around the Christmas tree, of course. We'll be joined again by the iconic Radio City Rockettes. The big holiday tradition, if I haven't said it, is December 1st, 8 p.m. here on NBC with some hosts you're familiar with, Savannah, Hoda, Uncle Al, and Craig.
Cool.
And we look forward to that.
It's going to be fun.
Always great. Next up, Thomas Rhett. It's a full house for the country music superstar. Overnight, Rhett shared on social media that he and his lovely wife, Lauren, have welcomed their, count 'em, fourth daughter into the world. Rhett saying, Lauren Akins, you are my hero. Watching a child being born is legit a miracle. 4 under 6.
Wow.
Here we go.
Ouch.
Baby Lily Carolina Atkins, born this past Monday, coming in at 7.5 pounds of pure joy. Big sisters Willa Gray, Ada James, and Lennon Love, great names, sending some big love, and we are sending our congratulations out to Thomas and Lauren and their beautiful family this morning. It's very cool. Finally, Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, the two star in the new upcoming rom-com Marry Me, and in the movie, J-Lo's a singer, there's a stretch. On stage, when she finds out she's been cheated on by her man, played by Latin music sensation Maluma, that's when she spots a cute guy in the audience, that's played by Owen Wilson, holding a Marry Me sign, and decides to accept his proposal right then and there on the spot. We have an exclusive look at the film's trailer, which does drop today. And of course, our very own Hoda has a cameo. Take a look.
Superstar Kat Valdez and Grammy-winning Bastian will exchange vows in front of the whole world.
What's everybody looking at?
Bastian caught cheating.
Why not? I'll marry you.
Uh-oh, what happens then?
Dad, that's you. Dad,
How does it end?
Wow. Well, I cannot tell, but continue.
Hoda, you had a chance to chat with the three big stars about the project and started by asking J-Lo what it's like having her character playfully poke fun at being married multiple times.
Excuse me. Oh,
yeah, I mean, listen, if you can't laugh at yourself and just take it as it comes, I just don't think about those things. You know, I feel like I'm a human being like everybody else. I've had my ups and downs, I've made mistakes, and I'm really proud of where I've come to in my life and who I am as a person, as a mom, and as an actor, and as an artist. So yeah, it's okay. Everybody's got that.
Y'all had great chemistry, I have to say. How many times have you guys worked together before this movie?
We did Anaconda back in the day.
That's right.
That was the only other time.
Yeah, I think it's just Anaconda, and we had to prove that the chemistry we had in that wasn't just a fluke. And I think we've done it, but you be the judge.
I loved Owen's face when she was answering that question about being married multiple times.
Yeah, she's like, hello.
Slowly sliding out of frame.
He was.
He's like, how do I get out of here?
Also, check out what J-Lo had to say about possibly saying I do in the future.
All right, your turn, Jennifer. Those 2 words.
For what?
The 2 words, marry me, are those 2 words you would like to hear in the future?
Marry me, say yes. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I mean, you know me, I'm a romantic. I always have been. I've been married a few times. Yeah, I still believe in happily ever after, for sure. 100%.
Well, she said yes. There it is.
So look,
that was Maluma, by the way.
Took a minute.
So next-
Yeah.
I got there.
She said yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, you can see that full conversation coming up on the 4th hour. Marry Me is out this Valentine's Day, and check out the full trailer at today.com. All right, and how about a few extra headlines, because it is Pop Star Plus after all. First up, Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, is sitting down for her first talk show interview since exiting the royal family earlier this year. Joining Ellen DeGeneres at her Warner Brothers studio, the former Suits actress reveals the unique way that she used to exit that same studio lot back when she would go out on auditions.
So your car that you used to drive to auditions was a very special car.
Yes, it had a life of its own. So I had this very, very old Ford Explorer Sport, and at a certain point, the key stopped working on the driver's side, so you couldn't get yourself in through the door. So after auditions, I would park at the back of the parking lot, and I would open the trunk and climb in, and then pull it shut behind me and crawl over all my seats to get out. That's how I would come to and fro.
She will never have to do that again. You can catch more of this interview today on Ellen. Next up, Mariah Carey, the Queen of Christmas, has unveiled the trailer for her highly anticipated holiday spectacular called Mariah's Christmas. The magic continues. Take a look.
The one, the only Mariah Carey.
Mariah is back with an all-new holiday special event. Featuring Khalid and Kirk Franklin.
I can't not celebrate Christmas with the world.
Mariah's Christmas.
Looking good. So we got a taste of that new single, Fall in Love at Christmas, earlier this month. The special's going to feature the first and only performance of that new song, as you saw with Khalid and Kirk Franklin. Mariah's Christmas, the magic continues. That will debut globally, by the way, Friday, December 3rd, over on Apple TV+. Those are your today's Pop Star Plus headlines. Coming up next, Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda tells us what it was like directing for the first time.
Nearly a dozen hours after the Eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right,
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
And welcome back to Pop Start Plus. The incredibly talented Lin-Manuel Miranda is best known as the creator and star of the Broadway musicals Hamilton and In the Heights. Now he's directed a new movie musical about the life of the late Jonathan Larson, who wrote the musical Rent. Here's our conversation with Lin-Manuel.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is a Broadway legend, known, of course, for his hits Hamilton and In the Heights. Well, now he's bringing the stage to the big screen. It's his feature film directorial debut. It's called Tick, Tick, Boom. It's based on the autobiographical musical focusing on the life of Rent composer Jonathan Larson. And Lin-Manuel, it is so good to see you.
Love having you here. Good to see you.
In the flesh. It's been like a pandemic since we've seen you.
I know, it's nice to see you guys.
Well, this is getting rave reviews. I can only imagine how exciting, exhilarating, and relieving that is, because not only is it your first time being a director, this show means so much to you personally.
Yeah.
this story means so much to you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the off-Broadway version of Tick, Tick, Boom when I was 21 years old. I was a senior in college. It was the month after the events of September 11th, and I was a theater major, and what do I have to offer the world? And here's this early musical from the guy who inspired me to write musicals in the first place, Jonathan Larson. And it was just sort of like, it's hard. It was like a personal message about telling what you're trying to do is very difficult, but if you're okay with the world not noticing and you're just doing it because you love it, like it was a very clarifying experience for me, and so it means the world to be able to bring it to the screen.
And even at 17, you sat in the back row and watched Rent. I mean, Rent was the thing that just moved you to your core and kind of propelled you into this, didn't it?
It was the most diverse cast I'd ever seen on Broadway. It gave me hope I could be on Broadway one day. It was the most contemporary music I'd ever heard. It was about artists sort of struggling to survive, and it just felt, it felt like, oh, you're allowed to make a musical as personal as any other art form, and it's what got me writing.
Everyone says how hard it is to bring theater to film. And it is, and you actually took it from, it started as a one-man show, then it was a three-person show, and then through film, you've been able to expand this world even more. How fun was that?
It was really fun, and it was really exciting because to take Tick, Tick, Boom off the stage and into the screen, you get to go to New York in 1990. You get, I was a kid who grew up in the city. Like, I remember that time very well. And, Scott Schwartz and David Auburn did such an amazing job with the three-person version that I saw off Broadway. That was starring the brilliant Raul Esparza. I have the incredible Andrew Garfield just embodying Jonathan Larson. We were able to film on location in the places that meant so much to the real Jonathan.
You picked Andrew Garfield, and you had no idea whether he could sing. In fact, he said that you asked him, like, if he wanted to be in it, and could he sing, and could he play the piano. He gave you a yes because he knew it would be a year until filming.
It was like a yes-ish, the way he tells the story, like, well, and when it's time to film, I will be able to.
Were you concerned, like maybe he couldn't?
No, I wasn't concerned at all. I saw him in Angels in America and was just like, that guy can do anything. He's just had his heart open to us for 8 hours straight. It's such a feat of endurance. I knew I needed someone who lived and breathed the theater to play this role because Jonathan lived and breathed the theater, and Andrew just embodied all of that.
But still, I mean, that's a big bet to place on someone even that you admire so much. Andrew told, first of all, he sings incredibly well. Like, it's actually not fair. Now he has too many talents. You're almost angry about it.
I'm starting the Andrew Garfield for Fiyero and Wicked.
I mean, it's insane. Now. But he told this funny story. He was here earlier this week that you had snuck into one of his rehearsals with his vocal coach. He didn't even know you were there, and he's singing and practicing. And all of a sudden, he said he sees a shoe fly toward him. And it was your shoe.
What was that?
And what does that mean? Like, what is the Lin-Manuel shoe?
That started with the In the Heights cast years ago. That's when someone sings.
Yes.
You, like, the only thing left to do is just throw your shoe or put it on the table. Like, you just, you ate it. You destroyed it. I just saw you give your shoes to complete strangers in the street.
Favorite part of the show.
I was doing the Lin-Manuel. I was like, you're great.
If not Andrew, then who? Like, if he was not able to.
I had no plan B.
You didn't?
No, I knew that if I gave him, when I asked him if he could sing, he said, that's a part of myself I've always wanted to explore but haven't had the chance to. And I knew if he was excited about doing it and I gave him the time and the resources, he would rise to the occasion, because he always has.
I just, like, Lynn, we feel so connected to you because, like, before Hamilton and after Hamilton, and just this beautiful journey that you've been on. But how exciting to see you try something totally new.
Yeah.
And was that terrifying?
Well, it's terrifying now. It's funny, as you're making the movie, you're just making a lot of decisions. As the director, you're the final decision maker. And so, I was just thinking, like, honoring Jonathan Larson, what would Jonathan Larson do every step of the way? But your personal stuff seeps into those decisions. I remember showing the movie to one of my best friends, Kiara, who wrote In the Heights with me. She saw the first rough cut, and they cut to John's apartment, and she goes, Lynn, that's your bedroom. That's exactly what your bedroom looked like at 25. And I just was like, oh my God, this movie's so personal. And like, without my realizing it, in a lot of ways, it's the most personal thing I've ever made.
It is. There's multiple layers to it. It's really exciting. Congratulations
Thank you, Lynn.
to you.
Thanks for coming.
How are those little boys?
They are fantastic. I did freestyle with Jimmy last night, and so my son was testing me this morning with Pokemon cards. He was like, rhyme Jigglypuff, Mewtwo, and I was just like, this is way harder.
That is a real challenge.
Really
All those
cool.
named Pikachu, Charmander, I know. We're in the Pokemon phase ourselves.
Just going through the folder, getting stumped.
Thanks, Lynn.
Always love when Lynn stops by. This guy's great. Coming up, we've got the star of Full House. You know her, you love her, Candace Cameron Bure, getting very competitive in her newest Hallmark holiday movie.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the Eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses.
All right, it just me too.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
And welcome back to Popstar Plus. So Candace Cameron Bure now has, count them, 10 Hallmark Christmas movies under her belt, and my sister has seen all of them. Of course, she was DJ Tanner on the beloved 90s sitcom Full House and its Netflix reboot, Fuller House. And she's drawing on that Fuller House experience in her latest Hallmark movie, The Christmas Contest. Take a look.
So Laura, let me think. Oh my gosh, this is my 10th Christmas movie. I'm like, wait, what job do I have in this one? She works for an advertising company. I can't remember.
I'm Laura, otherwise known as Slay the Competition.
So I'm starring in the Christmas contest this year, and I play Laura, who enters a Christmas contest for charity, but doesn't realize that her ex, as in like longtime ex-boyfriend, is also a contestant in this Christmas contest. So it's a very competitive rom-com because there's a lot more at stake for these two competitors than just winning a contest. There's a lot about love.
So, we're both here.
Yeah, both Christmas contest competitors.
She is a very, very competitive person. She has this great relationship with her mom, and her mom is played by Barbara Niven. And she's a Hallmark staple as well. But she really gets her drive because of her mom. Her mom has pushed her to be the best, to be competitive, to win at all costs. And so she's a very motivated, driven woman. But in the process, she learns that that's not really what life should be all about. So her mom needs to learn a little lesson too. I can pretty much relate to everything Laura. I too am a very competitive person. I literally was repeating lines to myself at times of like, oh, I have to remember that in my competitive nature. And sometimes when we're very driven people, we can be extremely hard on ourselves. And sometimes that's a really good thing, but sometimes we need to give ourselves a break. And at Christmas time, we all need a break.
Do you two know each other?
My favorite part of the whole movie really is that I got to work with John Brotherton again. He played Matt on Fuller House. So this was more than just a reunion movie. I think this is the movie for all of the Fuller House fans that were Team Matt and didn't get that at the end of the series. John Brotherton and I are such great friends. We have a chemistry, we have a rhythm when we act, so this was really fun to do together. I helped develop the script, I produced the movie, and the whole time as we were developing and writing this script, in my mind, I thought this has to be John Brotherton. It has to be, because we already had so much history from not only working on 5 seasons with Fuller House, but even within the characters that we played, that we were in love, we were engaged, we broke up. There was just a lot there. And I thought, oh, we're gonna get this for free in the movie, like all this underlying content. So I wanted John Brotherton for this, and gave him a call and we made it work. Every time we were together, with these two teams competing, it was just so much fun. Everyone's great, all the actors are fun, but we just got to be silly and goofy. This year's been very interesting, especially with all the commotion that, shipping is down and things can't come in from overseas and there might not be gifts for Christmas. And I think about it and I go, wouldn't that be great? What if we all actually focused on the real meaning of Christmas? Obviously, if you share the Christian faith, that is the birth of Jesus Christ. If you celebrate another holiday, how about focusing on that and focusing on the time with your family and friends and having deep, meaningful conversations or sharing a cup of coffee together? I think that there are so many good things that can come out of this holiday season. And just like last year, sometimes just taking that deep breath and focusing on what's right in front of you, the good that is right in front of you, is the best way to spend the holidays. My Christmas decorations are coming in. Like I wore a Christmas sweatshirt yesterday. I'm ready for Christmas. And I love Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving and Christmas is kind of one for me. It's just all holidays all the time. But I'm really looking forward to being with my family because I'm an empty nester, but of course I'll get all my kids home for the holidays. And I think this year we might do a destination Christmas. We'll see. We're still working out some details, but I think that might just be a really fun time to spend with the 5 of us together. Hallmark movies have honestly become a part of people's holiday tradition. They just can't go the season without watching multiple Hallmark movies. And I love that. And I think everyone loves them because they're predictable, because they feel good. It's like putting on a fuzzy blanket over yourself. It's like putting your slippers on. It's just something that feels good. And you just know that it's gonna have a happy ending. Everything's gonna turn out okay. And you're gonna get that smooch at the end. That's why we all love Hallmark movies.
Oh yeah, that one looks good. The Christmas contest airs November 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern. You got it on the Hallmark Channel. Stay with us. When we come back, we're looking back on Wedding Crashers with Owen Wilson.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right,
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. You think you'll run for office one of these days?
I'm not saying no to anything.
Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
That was amazing.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Grab
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
And we are back. Our friend Owen Wilson is an actor of many talents. We last saw him in the Marvel series Loki, and earlier next year, he'll star in Marry Me alongside J-Lo in her return to the big screen. But back in 2005, it was another movie about weddings that got him a lot of attention. Of course, Wedding Crashers. And today, by the way, on Owen's 53rd birthday, happy birthday, we've pulled a little something from the vault.
Take two guys on the prowl, mix in a live band, an open bar, and quite a few hot bridesmaids, and you have the makings for this summer's newest comedy called The Wedding Crashers. Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn star as two divorce mediators who have perfected the fine art of crashing the wedding.
Okay, what's our backstory?
We're brothers from New Hampshire. We're venture capitalists.
I'm sick of that. Let's be from Vermont, and let's have an emerging maple syrup conglomerate.
Wait, that's stupid. We don't know anything about maple syrup.
I happen to know everything there is to know about maple syrup. I love maple syrup. I love maple syrup on pancakes. I love it on pizza. I like to take maple syrup and put a little bit in my hair when I've had a rough week. What do you think holds it up, Slick?
Owen Wilson, good morning. Cheers, Owen.
Cheers.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I understand you took your mom and dad. I'll take a sip of this, right? It's cocktail hour somewhere.
Why not? Yeah.
You took your mom and dad to the London premiere, is that right?
Yes, my mother and father came from Texas to the London premiere.
And what did they think, Owen?
They said it was great. They said they loved the movie, although it seems like you always have to measure things in sort of degrees of greatness, because nobody ever says, at least to me, that anything's less than great. Everyone's always like, it's great, but in this case, people seem to be genuine.
I mean, it's very funny, but it is a tad raunchy.
It is.
You know,
rated R.
Right, in some places. Do you ever feel embarrassed? I mean, you don't have any, well, you have a few sort of risque scenes.
Yeah.
But when those come up, do you like cover your parents' eyes or anything?
Well,
it must be kind of embarrassing, really.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't go sit through the movie, so I leave that sort of up to my dad, and he kind of is responsible for kind of shepherding my mother through some of the more difficult scenes. I give him a heads up, kind of.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the fact that this is, you know, I think what works in this movie, and I talked to Vince yesterday, is it's kind of old school meets The Notebook a little bit, because
that's a good,
it is a very funny movie, but it's a funny movie with a heart, don't you think?
Heart. Bless you for saying
no,
that.
but isn't that true?
It's true. It's true, and we did work hard on the script with the writers and the director David Dobkin in trying to make it more than just like, you know, these guys who are kind of, you know, on the prowl. And then when I do fall for Rachel McAdams, who's easy to fall for.
And who is in The Notebook, by the way.
Exactly, and very pretty and stuff, that does have hopefully like a little heart to it.
This clearly is not where you fall in love with Rachel McAdams, but that's okay. This is Rachel McAdams, and as we said, she is the daughter of the Treasury Secretary, played by Christopher Walken, and this is sort of the mother of all weddings to crash, right, Owen?
Yes, this is at the time where I'm kind of losing my interest in crashing, because I think it's a little pathetic that Vince and I are in our 30s and still sort of doing this, and he assures me that it isn't, and this is our big sort of last one, and I fall for this girl, Rachel.
And that really is the bulk of the movie, sort of how you fit in, and sort of she's engaged to this other creepy guy named Sack.
Yeah, he's not so great.
He's awful, isn't he?
He's not. It's hard to root for him.
Yeah. I understand that you actually crashed something with Vince Vaughn, not a wedding, but a Republican party.
We were staying in D.C.
Or young Republicans, right?
Yeah, we were looking for something to do at night, and there was a band playing downstairs at the hotel. It turned out to be a Young Republicans party from Texas, and they welcomed me with open arms, even though I wouldn't say that that's my political leaning. But Vince, who actually is maybe more conservative, they were a little suspicious of.
Oh, they were.
Yeah,
did you have fun, though?
Yeah, we did have a good time.
And you wanted this movie to be authentic, because some of it does take place in Washington, and I guess, is that on the Eastern Shore where the wedding is, or is that somewhere else? Is that?
It's near Maryland, kind of Chesapeake Bay, but we did want to be kind of authentic because Christopher Walken's the Secretary of Treasury, so we got John McCain.
Right, you actually called John McCain and asked him to appear?
I called him, and the people that I spoke to, I guess the Secretary could not have been nicer, and they said, we'll give you an answer in 45 minutes. They called back and said it'd do it.
Again, we're sending out a huge happy birthday to our pal, Owen Wilson. And there you have it, friends. That was today's Pop Start Plus. How was that? Don't answer that. Join us again tomorrow. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
It's our favorite day of the week. You're watching at home. It's our digital show, Today in 30. It's a bite-sized portion of everything you love about today.
Yeah, I'm not drinking. Just coffee. It's only coffee. I'm high on life. We're starting with a report from Washington. There was a lot of overnight drama on the Hill. A record-setting speech from a top Republican derailing a vote on President Biden's Build Back Better package. We're going to have the latest.
Plus, there's yet another holiday headache to add to your list this year. Apparently, there's a shortage of Christmas trees, both the real ones and the artificial ones. Luckily, though, Carrie Sanders has solutions for your family.
And then Jenna and Hoda are off on another blindfolded adventure around New York City. They really got a kick out of this surprise.
I think you might know what it is.
Okay.
All right, so let's press play. It's time for
Today in 30. Hello.
We do begin with that marathon speech on the House floor from Republican Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, it started last night, lasted more than 8.5 hours, leading House Democrats to postpone a vote on the president's spending bill. And this morning, there's breaking news tied to all of that. Let's get right to Kristen Walker for the very latest.
Good morning, Savannah, to you. Yes, the House just passed President Biden's landmark legislation, a victory for the White House that came after a night of unexpected surprises. In a dramatic move, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy spoke on the House floor for a record 8.5 hours, aiming to derail the vote for the sweeping bill. But it happened, and now that bill heads to the Senate. This morning, a big step forward for President Biden's agenda, with Democrats passing his $1.75 trillion Build Back Better bill along party lines. But it still faces an uphill battle in the Senate.
The Build Back Better bill is passed.
It comes after a dramatic delay in the House vote, Republicans throwing an unprecedented curveball, disrupting plans to pass the landmark legislation for hours. Republican House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy rising to speak Thursday evening and going and going and going, lasting well into the morning, aiming to stall plans to vote on the sweeping bill, which would direct over $1 trillion to social change programs and climate measures. The tensions on the House floor palpable.
It's all right. I got all night.
McCarthy railing against the Build Back Better Act.
Never in American history has so much been spent at one time.
But occasionally filling the time by covering other topics.
You know, I still live in the very first house I ever bought. I can't even afford to test drive a Tesla. And Elon's one of my best friends.
Always a staunch supporter of his party's allegiance to Donald Trump, McCarthy lamenting the former president didn't win the Nobel Prize.
Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama, not Donald Trump. After Abraham Accords.
And comparing Mr. Biden to former President Jimmy Carter through a trip down memory lane.
I remember back in the late 70s, 1980, we had a president in office. I was in the 6th grade. He put a sweater on and told us to turn our heater down.
Democrats audibly frustrated.
Nobody elected Joe Biden to be FDR.
Some mocking McCarthy online, one writing, "I delivered a baby in less time." But still, it's a setback for the White House after months of bitter partisan and internal wrangling over President Biden's bill.
With that, Madam Speaker, I yield back.
McCarthy's speech breaking records and exposing the deep divides threatening President Biden's legacy. Meanwhile, this morning, the president is getting a physical at Walter Reed Medical Center. And according to Press Secretary Jen Psaki, the president will transfer power to the vice president for that brief period of time when he is under anesthesia. The vice president working here in the West Wing during that time. Savannah, Hoda.
That tree is not available,
No.
okay? But apparently there is a tree shortage going on.
Yeah, and it's apparently fueled by this double whammy of the shipping crisis and climate change. It's looking like Christmas trees, both the real ones and the fake ones, could be very hard to come by.
NBC's Kerry Sanders joins us now with that story, and I'm sure he's got some answers too. Hey, Kerry.
Good morning, guys. Look, these trees here just arrived from Hayes Farms in North Carolina. But as you just pointed out, with so many things, there are supply and demand problems, and that also applies to Christmas trees. So if buying a live Christmas tree is your thing, expect to pay a little bit more. And the experts say, do not wait until the last minute.
If getting your Christmas tree feels like living in your own Christmas movie,
there it is.
then this year there may be some unexpected hijinks.
I would highly suggest this year, especially more than others, to get your tree early.
Christmas tree farmers say their harvest is smaller this year, but they're not blaming it on the pandemic.
There was some underproduction during the recession years, 2009, 2010, 2011. So fast forward the clocks, 8, 9, 10 years, and we're kind of paying the price today for the underproduction then.
Sellers say a strained supply chain also plays a role.
Trucks are a challenge. There's no question about it. The supply chain has got some major bumps in it right now.
Adding to the shortages, Mother Nature.
This is damage from the 110-degree heat.
This summer, a heat wave in Oregon scorched saplings and ruined thousands of trees on the Schmidlin family farm. In Buffalo Valley, Pennsylvania, at the nation's largest Christmas tree auction. Later today, they're auctioning off 50,000 trees. Before the pandemic, they auctioned off 98,000. This auction is the middleman between farmers and the trees you buy at small tent sales and big box stores.
There's a lot of new people here to buy, and they're buying because their suppliers do no longer have trees.
And if you're thinking of getting an artificial tree, many are stuck on cargo ships and in ports.
That's going to make shopping a little bit more difficult, but it doesn't mean that Christmas is canceled. Anyone who wants a tree will be able to find one. They might just have to look a little bit harder.
He went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up.
To prevent the Grinch from stealing your holiday, experts say shop early. Some lots may sell out. Among those on the early hunt for a tree, Cindy Cordova, thankful this year will not be a socially distanced holiday.
I feel great that we're finally getting back to normal, and I think that's probably another reason why the tree's getting put up a little bit earlier this year, and we're going to be welcoming our family and friends over.
Stick around because there is much more coming up on Today in 30.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back with one of our absolute favorites here today, Natalie Morales. She's here to talk about her upcoming 2-hour Dateline, but there's a lot more we're going to talk about.
Well, there is we still have that tissue thing that comes down. There could be tears. They're going to be happy tears. We want to take a moment and celebrate our friend because after 22 years here at NBC, Natalie has decided to try something new.
Okay, but before she signs off, our staff has a tradition of sending out goodbye emails that sum out what they love the most about working here. And Natalie, you had your own goodbye to you.
I did. Good morning, everyone. White House Chief of Staff Andrew
Dear
Carr
viewer,
said last night
from the minute I stepped in front of the camera and into your living rooms, I knew it was an honor to be a part of your morning tradition, the most sacred time. With you, I've had a front row seat to moments that captured our hearts.
People have been braving that freezing cold here for many, many hours, and this is an historic moment.
Moments I will forever cherish as I witnessed history.
Thank you so much for inviting us along.
I traveled the country with some of America's leaders.
We're seeing a new tone already for the papacy.
And covered the most incredible stories.
It is an unbelievable scene here. It's impossible to have a dry eye.
Like the rescue of 33 Chilean miners trapped underground for 69 days. Together, we witnessed a miracle.
The crowds were just going crazy.
I have enjoyed 2 royal weddings and held court in London, awaiting the first royal birth in decades. Events forever on my highlight reel.
The Christmas tree here at the center of the town behind me is now a growing makeshift memorial.
And even when the stories broke our hearts.
An attack in Boston.
The scope of this tragedy is being felt not just throughout the nation now, but the world.
I found hope and inspiration in so many who triumphed, like Celeste Corcoran and her daughter Sydney, survivors who a year later helped her sister, Carmen Acabo, finally cross the finish line never reached in Boston. I too was inspired to run and raise thousands for their cause, thanks to your support.
You can either celebrate what you can do or mourn what you can't.
So many extraordinary people touched our lives, trusting us with their awe-inspiring journeys.
Good morning, Carlos.
We raised an entire group of kids as I followed the class of 2020 from kindergarten to their senior year.
Sean White, congratulations.
You're on it.
Thanks so much.
And when the world celebrated, I got to hang with the contenders while covering 8 Olympics from Athens to Tokyo. I had an audience with some of the most compelling guests of our day and celebrities, from one carpet to another.
Root for the home
She won't
team.
stop. Okay.
Show her how enough.
Never one to shy away from a chance to try something new. I've had so many amazing adventures.
I'm flying.
We've had a lot of laughs, many at my expense. I'm sure you would agree. And have enjoyed the moments that matter most. As both my children were born, I felt your well wishes, and you have felt my joy seeing them grow up. Dear viewer, you and my Today family have given me a place I will forever call home. Thank you for all those mornings and the lifetime of memories we now share. With all my love and gratitude, Natalie.
Man.
Oh,
my gosh. Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm emotional. Even when I was tracking that, I couldn't keep it together. So
we love you so much, Natalie. You're such a treasure. I
Yeah.
just love seeing you and all your adventures, and I just think about what a great friend you've been to all of us. Gosh, you were a friend to me when I needed it most. I just adore you. You know that. You've had so many adventures. I think we want to do more of your highlight reel, but I don't think I can take it.
That was just the trailer.
I think you're right. I think that highlight reel really did show the work you did, but that's nothing compared to what you meant in this room. I mean, you walked in
you,
here.
guys.
What does it mean to you? I mean, this is 22 years of your life.
I mean, it is, and I've talked about this as you see, like just seeing my children grow up and realizing I've had people who've, over the years, when I said I was coming back today, they were like, I was pregnant when you were pregnant, or I ran my first marathon when you ran your first marathon. It's that connection to our viewers. I grew up with them, and I feel like we all have been on this journey together, which is so special, and it truly is extraordinary. It's, it is a sacred place to be here and to be allowed and accepted in people's homes in the morning. So I really honor that, and thank you for all these years.
You've lifted up and highlighted so many amazing stories and people who've triumphed. You've run marathons for them. You've followed people for years. People you've interviewed have become your friends.
They have. I mean, there's so many special people. Some of my favorite stories, of course, the Hoyt. You know, the legendary, the late Dick Hoyt and Rick Hoyt, just an incredible father-son team running the Boston Marathon, having done countless marathons, triathlons, Ironman, you name it, and just being able to, you know, before going and doing my first Boston Marathon and knowing that they were going to be able to cross that finish line for the last time together there as well. It was so special. And the Chilean miners, I will never forget being there for, you know, a couple of weeks and covering it. It really just, you know, that moment, it was being able to tell a good news story, which we don't get to do too often.
You do that so well, though. When you work here at the Today Show, like, you're usually called upon to have a skill set. You know, you're a great journalist, but watching that, you realize like how great you were and are at everything you did. You were like the Avengers all in one. Like, no matter what the task, what the story, you were there.
You have
all of them.
For 22 years, no matter what you have done, Natalie, you are still the same person.
Yes,
you are that wonderful woman.
Yeah.
You have always been a good friend to everybody who's been here. You treat everybody equally.
Yes, that's the greatest compliment. Thank you so much.
I adore you.
Well, the love is felt all around. I love all of you guys and love you.
Well, you know what?
Where are
Keith
you
Morrison
going?
is around the corner to stab us if we don't mention Dateline.
That's right.
Well, yeah, we should mention people are wondering, you're going to CBS The Talk. You're one of the makers of The Talk
Congratulations.
now. But we should mention you have another Dateline.
I have another Dateline. This is a story, Hoda, you've covered this one many, many times. You've interviewed Drew Peterson. Remember Drew Peterson, the most notorious and perhaps the most infamous. The show is called Infamous. He is locked away in a prison now for 10 years for the murder of his third wife, Kathleen Savio. His fourth wife, Stacey Peterson, went missing, and that case is she's still missing, of course, but Scott Peterson is locked up, and we got another interview with him as well.
Well, just like Carson says, you can do it all.
We should mention that Mo's going to come back in the third hour. We're going to love on you a little bit more.
Can we toast?
Thank you.
Yes, we can.
I just want to say one thing, Natalie.
Please come back and say that.
Every time you're around, people always say, like, oh, Natalie Morales, she's so beautiful. Yeah. She's so gorgeous. And I always say, but you should see her heart.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right, and
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news. 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. By the hand delivered.
all right, and just me too.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news. 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. By the hand delivered.
All right, and just me too.
This morning, we are catching up with an award-winning actor.
That's right. Rosamund Pike captivated audiences as Miranda Frost in Bond's Die Another Day. Then she went on to garner an Oscar nomination for her role in Gondor. Yes.
And just this year, she won a Golden Globe for her performance in the film I Care a Lot.
Well, now she's stepping into the world of fantasy with her new show, The Wheel of Time. She plays a member of a magical all-female organization who embarks on a dangerous journey that could make or break humanity.
Get the horses.
But you can't leave.
You're coming with me. The four of you. Your life isn't going to be what you thought. You've lived too long in these mountains, pretending that what happens in the rest of the world won't affect you.
We can't just leave.
They're after you. They will follow you. And if you stay here, this is where they'll come. They will leave nothing and no one standing, and I can't do anything to stop them.
So good. Rosamund, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So let's talk about this just a little bit. So The Wheel of Time is based on a wildly popular book series. And I just saw this. It ranks as the third top-selling fantasy franchise of all time.
Yes.
So you have these diehard fans, but there are some people who aren't familiar with the saga. So how would you kind of set it up for them? Or how would
the fans have been one of the most inspiring things about preparing for the show, actually, because they've lived with these books since the 1990s. And I think what's amazing about The Wheel of Time is it's got everything that you want from fantasy in terms of epic adventure, creatures, mythology, the legends, but at the core of it, you've got this cast of characters who you really mind about. And that's ultimately why you want to go on the journey, as well as really interesting, intriguing characters like mine, who you don't quite know where you stand with them. I like characters like that. And ones who have, she has a kind of stillness, and the counterpoint to which is like this massive power she can unleash.
I love that.
You mentioned the cast. I mean, I read that this was one of the big draws for you, the folks that you got to surround yourself with on the set day in and day out.
I remember what it was like to be starting my career, and I did Pride and Prejudice when I was 24, and that had that.
That's right.
Very good. And we had, Pride and Prejudice is a magical story, and everyone who participates in an adaptation of it has a rather magical time making it, because there's an inherent something special in the story, and I felt this was like that. So I wanted to surround myself with young actors who were about to go on a journey that was going to change their lives, I think.
And this project you use the word magical, and this project talks about magic, but only magic existing in a few people. What do you think is the magic you bring? And your own magic?
What a question. You mean my character?
No, in your own life, I think, because I think everybody has magic.
Well, that's really interesting. It's certainly one of the things that drew me to the show, because it's about magic in this world is called channeling. And it's about the way that you can channel and harness the elements of the universe and pass them through your body and out into some massive displays of power. And I think as an actor, I'm very interested in this idea of channeling, that we take other lives and we take them through ourselves and we feel them, we live them. And I think if I bring any magic to the world, it's probably the ability to relate and to allow myself to be a vessel, I think, for stuff to pass through.
So Rosamund, the word is that when you win an award, you bury it in your garden.
That's not true.
Is this true? And why?
It is true, because in England our houses aren't enormous. I mean, if I lived in LA it might be different, but our houses are, they have a certain scale to them. And I think, well, where do you display these awards? It's quite ostentatious, I think. If someone's coming around to dinner, are you inviting them to comment on them? Do they feel imposed upon to say, oh, there's your
But you bury them?
So I thought it would be amusing to bury them in the garden. So there's a little bit showing. So there's a glint of gold.
So is your Golden Globe in the garden?
Not yet, because I'm currently living in Prague. But I have a shovel ready and waiting. I actually have a Two Rivers shovel, which is the place where our fantasy series takes place.
We have to all go to the garden.
Well, I'm hoping that in the future, when I move on or I die, then somebody will be living in the house and will suddenly think, oh, what's this buried in the garden? And there'll be a kind of mystery. I guess so,
like buried treasure.
That's amazing. Well, we have to stop talking about it, so it'll be a secret.
I gotta be honest with you, we've heard a lot of things on this show.
That's a first.
Never heard that. Wow. That is an absolute first, Rosamund.
Garden of Gold. Rosamund, you are a delight. Thank you so much for coming in. And this is really good. The Wheel of Time. It premieres today on Amazon Prime Video.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Really, a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the man who
excited, isn't it?
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today. Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Joe Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready? Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
It's that time when our producers put blindfolds on us and take us to a mystery trip through the city we love and our special series, H&J Love New York.
We've been to a New York Rangers hockey game. We went to the city's newest sky-high observation deck, but this time, even though we didn't travel very far, it was a magical experience.
Those gloves look so good on you. Okay, here's how it went down.
Okay. All right, I'm out.
Step right here.
Oh, right there. I knew it!
Radio City?
We can be Rockette.
Jump, knee, jump, kick. Jump, knee, jump, kick. Our next H&J Love New York adventure takes us to the historic Radio City Music Hall. Let's do it! Home of the Christmas spectacular starring the Radio City Rockettes, a New York tradition since 1932.
The Rockette!
Danelle and Caitlin greeted us in the theater's magnificent lobby.
Welcome to Radio City Music Hall. Thank you. It's magical here.
Awesome. This is one of my favorite things to do with my girls is bring them here.
We want to take you on a little tour of our home,
We're
our favorite
interested.
place.
We would love that.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, please do. 6,000 seats.
Imagine. It is just, there's nothing like it.
Breathtaking.
There's something really super magical.
I mean, I'm in awe too. Every time, even when I look out, I'm like, this is real life.
We have some fun things to show you over here. This is original to the theater. How amazing is that? 1932.
This is from 1932?
Yes, and our clock as well. So the second that clock
Look at
says
that
it's showtime, it's showtime.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
We even ran into an old friend.
Now, I just saw your names, and fortunately, they were on the nice list.
They were on the nice list.
We were nervous.
My daughter's asking. She asks a lot if she's on the nice or the naughty. I would
She
say
is
she's on the nice.
absolutely on the nice, no question about it. How could she not be with you as a mother, huh?
Oh, Santa, thank you.
You have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank
This
you,
is like
Santa.
the best day
I
ever.
know that Santa
He's
came.
only just begun.
Bye, Santa.
Merry Christmas.
Come on in.
The Rockettes have 9 costume changes in each show. The quick change dressing room houses them all. Is this the XL? Uh-huh.
Wow, some small heads. The fact that this is staying on. Yep, exactly.
Got it?
Sorry.
Good catch.
We have big
catch.
Do you want to see what's in the duffels?
Oh my
Oh my gosh.
These are real Rockette shoes. How cute. Size 10s, I hope.
I'm a little nervous about what this means. Hi, guys.
Break a leg, ladies.
In the rehearsal hall, we met Taylor, whose mission was to transform us into high-kicking Rockettes.
We are so eager to teach them a few moves that we do in the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. I hope they warmed up and stretched those hamstrings.
Wait, how does it go?
Don't worry, she's going to show us.
I'll just hang on to Jenna.
We're going to slightly turn out our right leg and then pop our left toe. Squeeze those abdominals. We got this.
Abdominal.
In. Yeah.
Some of us just have one.
It's going to come toe to eye.
First, we learn the kick steps. That's all I got right here. And after having our share of troubles, it was time to show off our moves.
5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12.
Change it.
Yes! Starting from stage right to stage
Our next dance routine involves lifting and spinning.
And spin our block.
Actually, Hoda's so
Hoda,
good at
you
spinning.
did
Is it spinning?
It's spinning the other way, but that's
the other
okay.
way?
It's pretty close.
A quick costume change, and we are show ready.
I don't think we look as good as the Rockettes, but we sparkle.
It's a look.
It's a look.
5, 6, 7, 8, push 1, 3, 5, spin 7. All right, put it down. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we go. Put it down. Don't forget to ice your feet.
Okay, we're going to.
My toes are smashed.
I know, me too. Okay.
That was fun. Tune in next week because we are covering all of your Thanksgiving needs.
That's right. The weather, the travel rush, tips for your feast from an all-star lineup of chefs. It starts on Monday. Adele has a new album. Goodbye.
See ya.
It's over.
Sean, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Great to do it with you. Thanks.
First Flag Day, extraordinary film. You direct it, you star in it, and you direct your own children, including your daughter Dylan, who stars across from you. When the idea came across your desk, direct this film based on a true story, but also direct your daughter, what was your first reaction?
Well, it was an inverse of that, really, because what happened was that I had been sent the script with the offer to act, direct, or both. And I got to about page 30, and that's when my daughter's face got imprinted on that character in a way that I'd occasionally had happened with other actors, but not to the point where it could now only be that face for me. And she was quite young at the time, and when I first approached her with it, and reluctant, and wanted more time to live her life, more time to spend on sets. And so it took 10 years before we ended up, and that the opportunity was still there, was great. But originally I was just going to direct her in it with another actor. And it was really out of a kind of very surprising situation where we had an actor fall out for his own personal reasons about a month before shooting, that I had to jump in or let the movie fall apart.
So Dylan was not obviously an experienced actor at that point. What was it that told you she can do this and she should do this?
Yeah. There was something I was so confident in, blindly confident in, about just observing her over the years growing up, the way she would tell the story and inhabit characters that she would tell the stories about. And I was always just so sure, but it wasn't until the first day of shooting, the first scene we shot together, when she just nailed a long scene, where I realized I had no right to that confidence, and I have all the relief in the world that I was right, because what if I hadn't been, for her sake? And I remember immediately being thrilled, admiring, moved, but mostly relieved. And I looked off camera to one of my trusted crew members, and they had just seen what she did. And, you know, what the, was like, where does that come from in that young woman? And so, yeah, we were off to the races at that point.
How do you walk that line of being her real life dad and directing her? Are you encouraging her like a dad during the shooting, or does she need to find her own process? Or how do you balance those two things?
Well, what was also interesting is that part of Dylan's reluctance to do the movie was because she never saw herself in front of the camera growing up, though her parents both did it. She did see herself behind the camera. And what was fantastic about the partnership that became of it with my daughter was that she has great directorial perspective. even in the way that one would color a scene, the different colors between the characters and so on. She had and I think we immediately found we had a shorthand in that. So there were so many times where I might have to explain why I was putting the camera in a certain place with a certain lens at a certain time to certain actors. She already has a kind of grounded concept of that, and with a similar bent to my own.
So what happened, Sean, in that decade from the time she was, 20 years old until now, that convinced her, do you think, that she was ready for this? Because I was saying to you before, what maturity for a young woman that age to say, no, I don't want to be in a movie with you. I think a lot of people would jump at that opportunity. But for her to know that she wasn't ready, when did she make that leap?
I think that when I brought it back to her at the age of, I guess she was about 27 at the time, right before we made it, I think that, one, she was bringing more life of her own to the interpretation while reading the script again, and recognizing what a great opportunity it was, and a challenge that she wanted. And then to hear her tell it, she got great encouragement to do it from her mother, and in particular, one of our producers, John Killick. And I think that both of those were really important. And then she had a second moment of great reluctance, which is when the other actor fell out, and I took over because she felt it was, this is a big enough risk to work with my dad. Let him pick one job. But we didn't have a choice, and it ended up working. In our view, both Dylan and I think, feel very lucky that it ended up happening that way.
Yeah, you guys are phenomenal together. I mean, I was saying to you before that there was this real life dad energy that comes through all the time with a guy who's trying to do his best, but he can't stay on the right track, and she's trying to pull him back in, and he's lying to her, and there's deceit and all these things that we all experience in our life. So I think we should take a step back and just explain who John Vogel is. Mm-hmm. Real life person. Jennifer is his daughter, played by Dylan. Who is this guy, and how did you see him as an actor? What appealed to you?
Yeah, so John Vogel, who at the time of his death was the second largest counterfeiter in U.S. history. He had robbed banks. He had been an insurance arsonist. He was also a revered Chopin. He was also a very talented sketch artist. He took that talent later into his counterfeiting activities. He was, by all accounts, and particularly Jennifer's account, in many ways a larger-than-life, big personality, very charming, so on. I met this character initially not through Jennifer Vogel's book, but through Jez Butterworth's interpretation of it, his adaptation of the book as a screenplay. And as I said about Dylan's face being imprinted, I got an impression of who this character was initially from the fiction. Mm-hmm. And with Jennifer's permission, as I went back and read her beautifully written book, with all the complexities of character borne out as well as anybody can speculate on the mind of another, as she did with her father's and so on, there were a lot of clues. And I'm sure I carried some of those into it, but I feel that because Jennifer was willing, both for me as a director and as an actor, to encourage a lot of poetic license, that I didn't approach it specifically to achieve the real John Vogel, because I was really going to be making this, not mine as Sean Penn, but mine as the director, of a slight expression of what that kind of relationship is. What the theme of deception and truth, and which has only become more poignant, in this era. And so I think it was a very intuitive kind of process. I think it was for Dylan, and I know it was for myself.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? the vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? Yeah, 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. By the hammer to the Richards.
All right, it just me too.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire?
If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press. The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Directing and acting at the same time, something you've never done before. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you've ever done it. You've directed, of course, and done all your movies, but you've never done both at the same time.
Right.
How do you begin to manage that?
Yeah. So there are people who are wired for that. I've got great friends, Bradley Cooper, Ben Stiller, people who have done this, Robert De Niro, who have done it brilliantly. For me, I have noticed in my life that I am overdrawn to multitask. It is not my nature to do it, but I often feel that I have to. And it puts an incredible stress on me. So all the other aspects of my life that I do that with, I've tried to preserve film where this sort of mono mind doesn't have to be in stereo. So I never would have, just voluntarily chosen to do it. I always loved directing films and just working with actors other than myself. Directing is a 17.5 hour a day job anyway. The idea of going home to learn lines, each night with everything else going on was too much. But then I found out something that I had not given enough attention to, which was that so much of the stress of directing that can be, or the energy demand of directing, is negotiating two egos in a scene. And as soon as I come in knowing what the frame of the house is, which is all I need to do to make Jennifer's story work, then I can save all of the time on the set by coming in, doing my bit, okay, and I know the frame is there, good enough.
Do you feel like sometimes one takes away from the other? Was it harder to, I guess the question is, would you do it again?
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I suppose if I found something that I identified as strongly with my son as this that I do with my daughter, I would. Well, my instinct would be the same as it was on this, which would be I would certainly direct my kids again. I would love to do that. Dylan's side of that story is that the next time we're on a set together, she's directing. But to act and direct is not. I think I just turned 61, and everybody's got their own chronology for that in terms of their fatigue. I'm not going to be directing and acting again, I don't think.
So you went through a lot as a young actor. Have you talked to her about that side of it, that you're going to be in magazines, people want to take a picture, and there are pieces of this that, hey, I learned a few things along the way, and here's what I can tell you about it?
She's very self-aware. She knows everything that I know. I mean, it's a funny thing, because I remember when she was 3, she was in the child seat in the back of my car. And we were having a conversation where she said something that was just so astute. And I thought I was complimenting her. And I said, and I'm looking at her in the rearview mirror. And I say, Dylan, I can't teach you anything. And she, why not? And I thought, oh no, I've just made the trauma. But it has also always been true that she kind of got born with a sort of wisdom of soul. And I think that she'll handle this well, and I'll be there for her in any way. Her mother will be there for her in any way that we can. But she's got good friends, and she's strong. So I'm pretty confident she's going to have a good run.
And not totally unlike your own experience growing up in a family of actors, right? Where you had some sense of what it meant to be an actor, what that life was going to be like. Were your parents initially as encouraging of you as you are of your children? I know there was one scene at the Repertory Theater where you came off stage very excited. Yeah. And what did your mother say to you?
So yeah, they had been very encouraging. You know, being an actor was a proud thing to be in our family growing up, and I went off to become an actor. And I invited my parents to my first play, and she came backstage. They came backstage afterwards, and she said, "You were terrible. You have to go to university and have something to fall back on." She's liked other performances better than that one since that time.
I hope so. It got better from there.
Yeah.
When did your mom finally give you a rave? What was the first performance? She said, you're pretty good at this.
She's been extremely encouraging, with the exception of that particular moment. And I remember when she said, you got to have something to fall back on. In a very cocky way, I borrowed a line from the Buddy Holly story where he's told, you got to have something to fall back on. And he said, I'm not going to fall back. So I was determined not to fall back.
You had that swagger from an early age.
Yeah.
What about Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Was she into that one?
Oh yeah, she laughed a lot about that. Yeah, she has trouble when she feels that I'm doing things for a character that make me less appealing. That's when my mother, because she's a mother.
Right.
So, why do you always want to play the ugliest side of yourself or things like that?
Well, Spicoli didn't have that side, luckily.
No, that was a different kind of thing.
Yeah, that was something else altogether. Well, there's been a lot of that then in your career because of the kind of characters you play. So in Flag Day, obviously very flawed man, and you look at your roles over the years, there's always something in those guys that there's some internal conflict. We're rooting for him on some level, but we see the flaws. Are those the kind of characters you look for as you look over the course of your career?
I mean, one could say, as it turns out, yes. While I've had an incredible amount of freedom, relatively speaking, to choose things to do, even to develop things, as an actor with a director early on, I haven't without been offered every kind of part. For example, I haven't been offered a lot of comedies.
Right.
And so on. So when I am developing or choosing things of my own, I tend to go into what is it that's interesting to me in human nature right now? Like what am I asking myself questions about now? Mm. And that can be difficult when you're just waiting on scripts to come from somebody else, to time that to the moment that's what's... And I think that's part of what pushed me into directing, is because I really wanted to pick the subject that interested me at the time I'd be making it.
It's hard to even see you in a big comedy. Would you wish somebody would ask you to be in one?
I would love to be. I mean, I love going to see a good comedy. So if somebody thought I could, be productive in it, I would be interested. I mean, I've been offered things, but not a lot, and not a lot I would want to do.
We need to make that happen. It'd be a nice unexpected turn, I think, if you take that move in your career. So you've kind of indicated in the last couple...
It's the hard one, by the way.
The comedy is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these... I remember, like, when Eddie Murphy did Professor...
Nutty Professor.
The Nutty Professor. Yeah. That wasn't, for example, an Academy Award-winning performance, I just think is ludicrous. What some of these actors, Jim Carrey, I mean, there's several of them that do things that are just magic tricks, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, they always say it's harder to make people laugh than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
There's no lying about whether or not it's funny.
You're either laughing or you're not.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late breaking news.
All right, it just did.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Your organization, CORE, which you co-founded after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, sadly has become essential during COVID. You guys doing testing, you guys doing vaccinations, and now again another earthquake just a few days ago in Haiti. I know you said you'll be heading down there soon.
Next week, yeah.
What does it look like from what you're hearing on the ground?
It's grim. It's really grim. This thing that we as foreign workers in Haiti have always talked about, which is the resilience of the Haitians. I'm wondering now to what degree we give ourselves too much comfort with that. It's so relentless what the Haitian people have gone through for so much of their history. And this particular one kind of happening in the aftermath of the assassination, the brutal assassination of the president, and happening in an area that just to get resources to it from the capital, from Port-au-Prince, is very difficult. The gangs own the territory between the affected area and Port-au-Prince. So most stuff, both human resources and supply, are coming in by rotary or fixed wing, and the roads are washed out from this current storm. There's something biblical about it. And my job, psychologically and practically, is to do what the Haitians are doing, which is put one foot in front of the other. And then when I say I really mean our organization's job. And that's what they're doing. They got in on day one with heavy equipment to aid in the search and rescue and the rubble removal and medical personnel. But I'm getting the daily reports, and it's a real struggle. The death toll is still rising. And so many of the churches were wiped out in the area, where, while I am not a religious person myself, what I'm in traveling, working in places like Haiti, the essential aspect of faith is so important. And to have those, houses of worship collapse for them, I think is going to be, it should make things that much tougher.
What do you say when you get down there? What can you say to people who've been through so much, as you say, so relentlessly, whether it's natural disasters or political crisis or the assassination of their president not long ago? What do you say when you get there?
Say, I'm with you. How can I help? you know, and you look for ways to be proactive. That's all you can do.
Is it frustrating in some ways? Does it feel futile sometimes to go to a place that it's so hard to recover and you know you'll be back?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. This last few weeks, since the assassination, and with this earthquake, it feels futile, but that's not an operating principle, you know, for any of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when I joke about the sky falling, you know, I feel like this guy, poor little me, feels like the sky is falling here all the time. But imagining it through Afghani eyes or Haitian eyes, the lead you take is, you can say all day, I don't know how they do it. But as long as they're doing it, we got to, you know, find our way to do it with them.
What changes the trajectory down there, Sean? What can be done? People have tried, maybe not hard enough in many ways, but how do we change the story of Haiti from what it seems to be perpetually?
I think the Haitians are going to do that. And I think the way that they're going to do that is because of this resiliency that they do have, this incredible strength, because they have absolutely no addiction to comfort. That in this world where my state's on fire right now, right, with all of the things that are going on in the world, they're going to be the population most tested for the difficult days ahead, the climate issues, it's everything. And they're going to be where the human spirit that we look to find strength.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, I know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. Private Banner delivering these.
All right, it just did too.
I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on your face that you are incredibly passionate about this. Is this the work you're most proud of in your life?
It's definitely the people that I'm most proud of, the people that work with CORE. My children, who have both worked with CORE, and all of the volunteers in Haiti, in the United States. You know, one of the things that happened by getting involved with testing and vaccination in the United States was that we were organizing local people. And to watch them take ownership of the programs, young people, the amount of will to service. And this is probably, if I had a magic wand and got one free day to create something in legislation, it would be mandatory service. And that, you know, after you do your time, we will pay for your college education. But instilling that, and there's so much hunger for it. I don't know if we need to mandate it. We just need to help navigate it, and then also incentivize it in ways that people can, you know, take that early experience of service. Young people get involved in service; it never goes away.
Yeah,
and they understand that they can matter, that they can make a difference to somebody, which is the same thing as understanding that your vote matters. You know, it's just being part of the team.
Being engaged, yeah.
And understanding that with independence, there's also interdependence.
Yeah, you mentioned the sky falling, but
Mm-hmm.
what gives you hope? You're somebody who goes out and takes action, whether you're wading through the streets of New Orleans during Katrina or down in Haiti or doing something about the COVID crisis right now. What gives you hope for our country right now?
You know, I don't want to claim a false hope. And at the same time, you know, there was a phrase by the Indian poet Laureate Tagore that I saw, and it was, "Every new child born is proof that God is not yet discouraged of man." And whether you believe in a conventional notion of God or not, which I have questions about, just what that phrase describes, I think I use it as a bit of a mantra.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
Flag Day. Happy birthday.
Thank you very
We
much.
got to get you one of those sliced steaks with mustard for old time's
Excellent.
sake.
Excellent.
Great to see you, man. Thank
Good
you.
to see you. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.